I would like to welcome everybody to the June 23rd meeting of the New Bern Board of Aldermen. At this time tonight, prayer will be given by Alderwoman Jamisha Harris.
Thank you. Let us bow our heads. God of justice and mercy, thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to serve the people of our city. Help us to act with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with charity and restraint. Give us the spirit of service. Remind us that we are stewards of your authority. Guide us to be the leaders your people need. Help us see the humanity and dignity of those who disagree with us, and to treat all persons, no matter how weak or poor, with reverence your creations deserve. And finally, Father, renew us with the strength of your presence and the joy of helping to build a community worthy of the human person. We ask this as your sons and daughters, confident in your goodness and love. Amen.
Amen. Would you join me in the pledge of allegiance to the flag of our country? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Bingle. Here. Alderwoman Harris.
Present.
Alderman Astor.
Here.
Mayor Outlaw.
Here.
Alderman Kinsey.
Here.
Alderman Best.
Here.
Alderman Odom.
Here.
Okay, it's time before we get into the agenda. Are there any changes or anything in the agenda? Seeing none, let's go to the consent agenda.
I make a motion that we adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion second, is there discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Mr. Stevens, item number 5.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 5 is the presentation of our GIS annual report. As we do each and every year, we have Alice Wilson, our GIS coordinator, come and share a PowerPoint presentation to demonstrate some of the strengths that we have with our GIS applications and advise of the future projects and goals regarding the GIS strategic plan. If you recall, this was initially adopted by the board in 2015, and we do this each and every year, and it basically recommends that the annual report be provided to the Board of Aldermen. So this is the reason why it's here for you tonight. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Alice for a presentation.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Board. I just wanted, like the manager said, just give you a quick presentation. There are a lot of links in here. We won't have time to go through those, but I hope you'll at some point will take a look at them. So briefly, we're just going to talk about our enterprise portal migration, some other projects that and accomplishments we've worked on, some state initiatives, some federal initiatives. Talk also about sharing and using GIS data, and kind of look at some next steps that we hope to do pretty soon in the future. So that we are now utilizing a GIS system called ArcGIS Enterprise, or the portal system. It sounds kind of sci-fi, but it's a really nice system. And it allows us to manage our data, share our data a lot better. It also allows us to take advantage of a lot of applications that are coming out and now available. GIS has really grown and how it's used. You can see during the viruses, during hurricanes, GIS is forefront in providing analysis and vital information. So what it also do is empower our city employees to not only take better care of our data and keep it up to date easier, share it easier, use it out in the field more, but also keep elected officials, keep our department heads and other people that need to, staff that need to have information and with real-time access. It also allows us to be better stewards of sharing information with the general public, as well as making apps and maps that can be available online, and allows also for users, all city staff, to make their own maps. It also allows us to collaborate with others. During Hurricane Florence was a big thing, trying to share information with FEMA, the county, and other agencies. With this new setup, we'll be able to easily create groups and share data across different spectrums through the state and other agencies. So our portal, so far we've got it set up where we've got gallery, we've got maps and apps, we've got some 3D modeling we're playing around with, We've got, like I said, groups set up where we can share information with other departments or with other agencies. We also have citywide authoritative data, and this is really important. And authoritative data means this is our good data. This is, I know not too long ago, when we first moved over about 5 years ago, we did the first GIS plan. We had multiple copies of city limits, where there's only one official city limits, or there should be. So now we have a way to have this, say that this is authoritative data and this is what should be used. It also allows us to take advantage of what's called living atlas data. Many agencies are providing real-time GIS data, and it allows us to bring that straight into our system and enrich our data, do more analysis on the fly. And also, again, allows us to have users where they can create their own data. They don't have to come to me or other GIS staff. They can maintain their own data. They can create their own and share it within their organization and publish data. So one of the things, moving to the portal, I know the city manager was emphatic that when we moved over that we look at GIS standards, and that could include how we manage our data, how we update our data, how we publicly make it accessible to others, as well as sharing it online, how we collect and maintain our data, and using standard symbology so that when we're sharing it with other agencies, you know what a manhole looks like. And so internally and externally, how we share data so that we're doing it safely and securely. So talking about other agencies sharing data, so I'm still on the Statewide Mapping Advisory Council as a local government rep. I'm also on the North Carolina Planning Association board to work on GIS statewide. So some of the initiatives that are going on, the Next Gen 911, as we move towards that, that's wrapping up pretty good. We're also working on an enhanced emergency response. It's called the WEGRS, of all the acronyms to come up with. That's what we got, but we'll go with that. And so we're working with state and federal agencies on how do we share data during events like a hurricane or other emergency events. The Census 2020, that's rolling along. I was in a meeting this morning about, it's probably like we're talking the end of October now before we actually have finalized that data. City of New Bern is only at, I think it was 60.8% of respondents, so we really need to push that we need to get people to do the census. Imagery was just collected for this part of the state in February and March, and that should be available in November, so we'll have real-time imagery. Reference data, this U.S. survey foot's going away, and everybody's going to international foot, and so in 2022, our datum will be adjusted. Elevation data, they're working on that to have more elevation and contour data. Municipal boundaries, we're setting up protocols on how to make sure that the state agencies and others get current municipal boundaries every time there's an annexation. And they're working on a new and one-stop shop, if you will, for hydrography. So talking about the imagery, where the colored areas, or the areas that were collected the first of this year, and we had Atlas Geographic was our our vendor that did it for the county. Oops, I just did something. There we go. Let's see. And this year, or this time, we actually get to have colored infrared. Usually you had to, it was being collected, but you had to purchase it. So the 911 board is making that available for free. So we'll have really good detailed information as far as vegetation. So some of the initiatives that I've been able to be involved in May, I was able to attend the Leadership Academy, which is really a great week-long process. There were folks from all over the country and a couple of international people that kind of met and talked for one-on-one about how we make GIS work better for our agencies. And I was also allowed to be, or asked to be, the opening preliminary speaker at the state GIS conference. There was actually supposed to be 3 of us, but I ended up being the sole person, and I felt sorry for the rest of us. One guy broke his ankle coming to the conference, and the other one had a family emergency. So, like the night before, they tell me, "Oh, by the way, you're going to be the sole person standing up there." So Yay. But I think it went well. So using our GIS data, we have storm data that we don't just want to sit on it. We just were awarded C grant for along with UNCW and New Hanover County, and there's a link there to the announcement. You can go and look at all the different information. So UNCW is doing some really nice stuff and looking at how can we be more resilient for flooding events. And then so some of the things I think that we are starting to use, dashboards, and again, I'm not going to have time to open these, but you certainly can, and I would encourage you to take a look at them. So this was a sample analysis we did for the fire department. I think this was from August of last year. The nice thing about this is you can filter by like date, calls, what department responded or what station responded. Was it more in the nighttime? Was it in the daytime? So it's really a point and click kind of thing to get a lot of really good analysis. And just like our damage assessment during the storms, it's real-time data. And now that we're using the portal, we can pull in real-time data from a variety of our software that we use. And so again, there's another one for the building permits from last year. I always do the annual building permits. You can click on those, any of those, to look at just the residential. If you just want to even go further, you can look at just the new construction for residential. And we've all kind of seen the COVID dashboard that John Hopkins has put out. So they're really nice tools to really share information. Also, story maps. This is really a wonderful tool. So forget the PowerPoint, and I realize that how ironic that is that I'm using a PowerPoint and I say forget it, but nonetheless. Story maps allow you to make really good use of maps and information and graphics and visuals and stuff to kind of take what used to be the paper plan that you saw and make it interactive and searchable and usable. So some of the cases that I'd like for the sites that I'd like for you to look at is like our rezoning cases. You're going to see 3 tonight. Wouldn't it be nice if you had an interactive map, if you had questions about what's around that site that you could utilize and pull up information. Also, there's I think the Redevelopment Commission, we took that paper copy and made it into a really nice interactive. And again, the building permit report we expanded that past the dashboard. Some apps that we were working on or want to utilize is the Survey 123, so that we can get information and convert it into GIS, a special needs registry. So if we do have storms, we're people that are going to need the help the most. Crowdsourcing, so during our mom theft and other things that are going to come back, and other information that we can put out there for the citizens to access our GIS data and provide feedback to us for analysis. So in the field, because we're moved over to the portal, we can take advantage of some of these tools, like the quick capture, where you just basically drive down the street and collect information. So you can think about like in the Redevelopment Commission, if we were doing a housing inventory. Tracker, I know our fire department want to use a search and rescue tool to go out there where during an event, they know where everybody's at so they can deploy the right person. And I know our electric department has already taken advantage of the collector app. And the nice thing about it is you can use it offline. You don't have to be near the internet. And again, no more paper maps. So we can do everything digitally and have access to all that data. So wrapping it up, our next steps, we want to update the public-facing maps that are on our city's homepage. We want to update the public information map, a better filter map for the park so that you can search by an amenity. And I'm a big fan about genealogy, so I really want to do a nice cemetery lookup map. Our GIS plan that I'm here representing is 5 years old, and we want to update that. Probably try to do it in-house. And again, incorporate those standards that I mentioned. And then standardize our maps and apps. I know that's something the manager was really encouraging us to do, so that when you see a map, you know it came from the city of New Bern, and everybody knows, the standardized, we can kind of cookie cutter, if you will, and make them a whole lot easier to use and friendly, so you don't have to learn how to use them, but just open and point and click. And then we're going to continue to have user setups and training, including citizens and staff. And so I think my time is out, but I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Board have any questions? Appreciate the presentation.
Alice, I know how hard you work, and I know how much you love maps, and thank you, because it really does help. I like our interactive Alderman map, so if somebody has an address, you can go right there, click on your address, and find out who your Alderman is. So, I mean, you've done a great job. I've seen the growth of maps over the last 20 years, and it's pretty amazing. But thank you. I know how hard you do work, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's go to item number 6.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 6 is a public hearing on rezoning of 2409 Oaks Road. After the rezoning, the board can consider whether or not they wish to adopt a statement of zoning consistency or inconsistency. If they do adopt the zoning of consistency, then at that point they would need to adopt the ordinance rezoning 2409 Oaks Road. As you recall, this came before you at an April 14th, 2020 meeting, but it was continued twice because of restrictions with COVID-19. We had the public hearing that was held on June 9th. 3 residents came in to voice their concerns about the rezoning. The board continued the public hearing and consideration of the rezoning request until now to allow the applicant an opportunity to attend. They were absent that night and could not attend the meeting. So this rezoning is at the request of Mr. Algarati. It's to rezone a 0.25 acre parcel located at 2409 Oaks Road from R6S residential district to a C4 neighborhood business district. So at this point, I'm going to turn this over to Amanda. And Amanda.
Point of clarification, this is a continuation of
Yes.
the
Public
earlier.
hearing.
That is,
Right, so
that is,
do we just
Hearing.
have the portion where the public can speak versus a
That's-
presentation?
that is correct. So if there's any kind of questions, I guess at that point, but I didn't know if you wanted me to go back through the detail again, but if not, then we'll just continue the public hearing and then the board can ask any questions. That's fine.
And Manager Nadia Abdul will be here for Development Services to make any presentation and answer any questions.
Okay, this time we're going to open a public hearing. Anybody would like to come up and make any comments, questions pertaining to this, you're more than welcome to come up. Yes, sir.
Excuse me. Good evening, Mayor, City Manager, Aldermen, Alderwoman. I was here the last time and back again to represent my neighbors and friends in my community of Woodrow and Oaks Road. I represent many of them in the neighborhood, and we are vehemently opposed to this location. We consider it spot zoning in the middle of a residential neighborhood. And I brought with me some better pictures than what was shared the last time. Yeah, thank you, Colleen. This is simply an aerial view using Google Maps. The planning department last time presented a picture that really didn't show the residential nature of this neighborhood. The red dot that you can see, it's not very big on this picture. That entire row there is a row of probably 12 to 15 houses that are all homes, residential. The picture that was depicted in the last meeting didn't show that. Next picture, please. There's a vacant home next door. I believe it's owned by a landlord. It's my understanding, talking to neighbors there, it's in the process of being repaired, like many other homes that are in the neighborhood. Again, residential on that side of the street. I'll admit, there's commercial across the street, but this is a residential area. Next picture, please. Looking down Oaks Road back towards the city, several homes before you get to a church and commercial area. Next picture, please. Very small parking lot here. I don't know how you're going to run a business here in that very small parking lot and not distract, and the activity there would be awful for a residential neighborhood. Next picture, please. Another picture of the lot, very small. Next picture, please. This is going outside of the city towards Simmons. More residential homes on this side of the street. Again, not depicted. in the planning department's presentation the last time to you. Next picture, please. Another view looking back towards the city. Residential, folks, residential. Convenience stores sell beer, wine, alcohol, tobacco. They take resources out of the community. They don't put resources into the community. It's not fresh fruit and vegetables. Next picture, please. A drive-through window. Brand new. Still has the stickers on it. Concrete driveway that goes around the entire building. In a residential neighborhood. Next picture, please. There's a picture of your brand new driveway that goes around the building. Rezoning this property would have a negative impact on the surrounding homes. Here's an opportunity to correct a non-compliant property and avoid spot zoning at this small parcel. There's no sidewalks, again, lack of parking. Once rezoned, little or no control over what's going to happen with this property. Very little will change to these affordable homes in this area if we allow this spot zoning. I remind you, there's an elementary school less than a third of a mile away. A young child was just killed several months ago on Oaks Road. No sidewalks. To the petitioner, I support your other businesses that are, I believe, 2 of them within a half a mile away. I don't support this venture. It's not good for the community. It's spot zoning. Again, I urge you to vote no on this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else that'd like to come forward? Yes, sir.
Yes. My name is T.H. Stubbs, and I represent Mr. Nasser Alderwoman. And he is the proponent of this rezoning, and we, as I understand in simple terms, we are asking for a change from C3 to C4. And let me explain a little bit why we are asking this, and I'll go back. We came here, and Nasser came here about a year ago and asked that this could be zoned for a rezoning, but that he wanted to put a convenience store and really a tobacco shop. Now the problem with a tobacco shop is it is not good in, actually, in my opinion, doesn't matter, but it's for a residential neighborhood and with families and children. So what we did, we met with the city attorney and Mr. Jeff Johnny, and and I said, Scott, here's what he really wants to do. He may die, or he may have somebody else running the store. And so what we would like to do, if it has this rezoned in such a way that he could not put a tobacco shop there, and he could not have the baby. Again, we say personally does not approve of that as well. And Scott went through the legalities of this with me, and we went before the Board of Administration. It was approved unanimously. And what we are asking tonight is that it be changed from C3 to C4, which would prohibit Mr. Nasser or anybody else from using it for a tobacco store. Now, what he does want is a convenience store. And this may not sound like a big deal, but that the neighbors in that community can walk a few steps, and there's some older members of the community, and can walk to a convenience store to get a loaf of bread or a gallon of milk or even a 6-pack of beer, then that's it's the convenience of the community that we are asking for, the convenience of the community. And we don't espouse any bad things. Now, I've heard that there's some concern that it would become a hangout for either adults or young adults to hang around and to drink beer or alcohol. This is not going to be a convenience store. Is not a place where you can have on-premises drinking. Now, I may be wrong, but I'm proud to live in Newbern, where maybe we don't have the best law enforcement in the world, but it's pretty damn close. And both in this building and across the street, we have not had the problems some of our sister communities have had, and I have no doubt that our law enforcement would prevent any bad conduct from going on at this convenience store. Now, as my friend just mentioned, there are commercial enterprises in the area. They're across the street, and we would point those out as well. Now, I asked Mr. Nasser to come with me, and he is right here. He will stand up. And I would offer him to, yes, and I told him I wanted to make him available for questions that anybody might ask, and let him say what he intends to do there. And
Hello. Yeah, I need to invest only convenience store, it's good for neighborhood. That's what I do, It's, we can sell anything, yes, bread, milk, like soda, drink. They don't miss anything, it's good for community and for everybody. I don't know. Something. We keep it nice, clean, outside, inside, everything.
And you own stores in the area, and you have operated those stores for a number of years, have you not?
Yeah, we own this one.
You want
We don't have
down
any.
by the traffic light and over up towards town?
Yes. Yeah, we got this one. Everything is good. Nobody stay outside. No, nice, clean, everything. We don't have any problem with anybody in this area.
Well,
We live here like 20 years now.
well, any questions, Mr. Nasser?
At this time, this is a public hearing for the public to come forward and ask questions. If when we close the public hearing, then the board can ask.
Can I ask follow-up questions, Mayor?
You can, if the board permits it, after we close the public hearing, and then the board will continue debate on this issue, and then they might want expert testimony or public comment at that time. We are still under public hearing, so it's anybody would like to come forward can do that when the applicant is through, including Ms. Townsend, if you want to come back up. Again, this is under, but Mr. Woods would be first, Mr. Townsend. Mr. Woods, I think, had a question or a comment. Yes, sir. Come on up.
James Woods, 1903 Country Club Road, Newbern. The one thing that I see with this is that if we start spot zoning, then where there's a vacant property, somebody can put a commercial business in the middle of a residential area, as this is. I'm not against businesses in New Bern. However, convenience stores are problems in New Bern. My church is at 1208 Broad Street. Right next to it, we have a convenience store. We've had shootings there. We've had all kinds of problems. People in the neighborhood go there, yes, it is convenient. But this is in the middle of a residential area. Housing, that's all that's on that side of the street, right in that block. If we start doing this, it's gonna be continued over the city. Because if you do it for one, somebody else is gonna want it done also.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yes, sir, if you want to come back up.
Here, there's an emphasis on milk and bread and eggs. And it was previously a tobacco shop. Convenience stores sell tobacco, lottery, beer, wine. I'm sorry. Convenience store is just another, it's lipstick on a pig. I'm sorry. And your other two properties, I support those ventures, but they're in commercial zoned areas. This is residential. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to come up and comment on this?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion, second, close the public hearing. Is there discussion? Did you have a,
I just had some questions.
let's do that when we close the public hearing. We'll go into discussion. You can get the same folks back up.
No problem.
All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Okay, Mr. Astor, Alderman Astor.
Thank you.
Chief Astor.
Mr. City Manager, the parking that is currently at this location, is it adequate for the size of the property? You might need to get somebody else.
I was going to say, Nadia, is she able to answer that from the planning department?
I think with regards to this, you need to approach this as a C4 zoning. Technically, Mr. Alvaradi, is that correct? Really didn't have to even tell you what his use was going to be. You need to be assuming that this can be anything within the C4 category. Now, being anything within the C4 category, he will have to meet the parking requirements for whatever it may be in the C4 category, which means that it may require additional acquisitions of properties or whatever if it were to be something else. So I think for the purposes of what the board needs to consider, you need to consider this to be any of the potential uses in the C4 category.
Okay, thank you. I've got a couple of them, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor. Is the drive-through window, I thought we discussed the drive-through window at the last meeting, and that was not permitted. Is that correct, Mr. City Attorney, or whoever?
If I recall correctly, I think Mr. Ruggieri commented, and Nadia, please feel free to come up and provide your input as well, but I'm pretty sure that he indicated that it would be determined on a case-by-case basis with the drive-throughs, depending upon what the site will allow, the ability to make the rotation around the building, so forth and so on. But Nadia, please feel free to add if you have anything further.
I think you said everything.
And then, well, while you're here, let me ask you, has this property basically always been commercial?
It was commercial for a while, and then it wasn't being used any longer, and it exceeded the 6-month period that it would have been allowed for it to go back to being commercial. So that was no longer an allowed use. It was a non-conforming use.
Okay.
I think from a historical perspective, I think this was a commercial property for many years, which had a residential use as well in the back of the property. Ms. Bingley, I think, commented on that last time. And since then, it's kind of bounced back. It's gone back to the R6 designation. And I think that what the original request was a year ago was to go to a C3 zoning. But that was not approved by the board, and this is a request to go to a C4 zoning from an R6S residential.
And then my last question is for either Mr. Stubbs or the property owner. What were the hours of operations for this location? Do we know? And
Would you be on?
It's 8 to 8 o'clock, that's it.
8 a.m. to 8 p.m.?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alderman Best.
Is the chief of police here?
Yes.
He is. I would like to ask him a question. He's not.
He had to step out for a minute.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
Let's see if
Anything else?
No, I just wanted to ask the police.
I have a couple of questions, ma'am.
Okay.
Oh, never mind. He's here.
Chief, I just want to ask you a question. Now, Mr. Alderwoman have two other convenience stores on Oaks Road, where one is on Watson and the other is at the end of Oaks Road in Glenburnie. During the course of the time those stores have been in place there, has there been a lot of police reports you having to respond to altercations or problems at those two stores that you can give me tonight? I know I've got to put you on the spot here.
Yeah, on my best, you really are putting me on the spot. I would say there's probably a fair number, yes, ma'am.
There's a fair number of incidents?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That,
Anything else?
no, that's it.
Mr. Davis, before we go forward, do you need to in any way caution the board on what we can ask and
Thank
not
you.
ask
I was just about to ask that.
concerning this item?
Yes, sir, as a city manager.
Germane to the zoning request.
Yes, sir, as city manager was trying to explain, you're looking at all the possible uses. It's certainly fine to focus on any particular use, but the applicant can change his use tomorrow. If this is rezoned, it can be used for any of those uses. And there's nothing we can do to bind a property owner to hours of operation or any features of the store or any particular use. So if this is rezoned, all of the potential uses on that property are available to the property owner.
Alderman,
Yeah.
thank you.
Nadia, could you come back up? I'm sorry, I didn't hear your response to Alderman Astor's question about the drive-through window. Was that allowed or not allowed?
It's on a case-by-case basis. So as it's not by right. It would have to be
Special
assessed by the
use, or
department.
what does it require?
I believe it would go through the zoning administrator.
Okay. And then the other question we were asking about the parking, the number of cars. I would think in a C4 district, there should be, is there a maximum, or is it by the square foot of the building? There must be some rule or ruler that you use. Do you know what that is?
So that would also go through the zoning administrator in the site plan review, and there would be a parking requirement depending on what it would be used for.
So different uses have
Yes.
different parking requirements?
Yes.
Okay, well, it's interesting. So if you change it and the building isn't, set up the way to have enough, then you have changed it and you may not be able to use the use.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, does the board have other questions? Yes, sir.
Have a list, sorry. What is the elevation of the house or the building structure that's on that property? Do we know? And was it flooded before? It's on a concrete slab, correct?
Yeah.
So it's gonna be at grade, so it doesn't have a crawl space. Pictures are gone, but one of the concerns that I'm struggling with is the fact that I understand that it's residential on each side of it, but the structure itself doesn't even look like a house, which leads to the fact that it has been used as commercial historically. The concrete driveway that was poured, would that have required a permit from Development Services? With a driveway cut off of Oaks Road?
Yes.
Do we know if did you acquire a permit to pour the driveway?
I call the city, they say it's good, yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
it was.
Okay. Sidewalks, I'm curious from a staff perspective, it seems like sometimes when we have developments in the city, some required to have sidewalks, some aren't. Would this be required to have a sidewalk installed?
I believe this would be required to have a sidewalk. It would go through site plan review, and that would be one of the conditions that it would need to fulfill if it was going to be a commercial use.
Okay. And then, I don't know, maybe Mr. Davis can answer this. Is there a limit to the amount of the percentage of alcoholic beverages that a convenience store can sell versus other goods? Can it be a convenience store with 95% beer and 5% bread and milk?
I believe so, but I don't know the answer.
Okay. And then one thing that would have been helpful, I don't know if, Nadia, if you have this with you tonight, do you have a list of the zoning, what's permitted in a C4 zoning? The list of permissible uses?
Single-family residential, low-traffic retail, athletic facilities, a car wash, restaurants, physician dental offices under 10,000 square feet, veterinarian offices, and there's probably more. That's just kind of gives you an idea. That was in the presentation that Jeff gave last time.
So Mr. Davis, correct me if I'm wrong, if a zoning is rejected, there is a time period before the applicant can reapply?
That's correct.
And if the applicant, if it was hypothetically rejected tonight and he came back and applied 6 months later and said he had changed his plan to put a car wash there, and this board then approved that, and then the next day he decided he wanted to put a convenience store there, he would be perfectly legal in doing so, correct?
Yes, and to go back to your question about the alcohol sales, the use is a retail store. I believe they have a specific use for alcohol sales, so at some point you tip away from a convenience store into something else. So
Okay.
at least 50%.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all, man.
Well, Mr. Davis, every one of those uses that was just mentioned would have to be on a case-by-case special use. Was that zoning?
These are all matter of right.
They would all be administrative?
Yes, sir.
Can you go to the mic?
Okay, does the board have other questions?
I guess the one, again, on low traffic retail. So is that what they're applying, that's what they would be considered based on this, is low traffic retail?
Yes, sir.
How, I'm concerned about that, is it 5, is it 50, is it 100, what does that mean, low traffic?
It's typically driven by the square footage of the facility.
Okay,
Walmart's high traffic, small gas station low traffic.
I see, okay. It's not necessarily the number of people.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
It was voted on unanimously on the zoning board to approve this as a C4, correct?
The planning board recommended approval unanimously.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Sorry.
All right, any other questions at this time for the board?
If there's no more questions, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that the ordinance to rezone 2409 Oaks Road from R6S to R6S to C4, statement of inconsistency be denied.
I want to make sure I understand your motion is to deny the request to rezone it to C4.
That is correct.
Okay.
So this will be a motion to adopt a statement of zoning inconsistency.
Yes.
Okay, does everybody understand the motion? Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
You have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Seeing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Bingle.
Alderman Bingle?
Yes.
Alderwoman Harris?
No.
Alderman Astor?
No.
Mayor Outlaw?
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey?
Yes.
Alderman Best?
Yes.
Alderman Odom?
No.
And what is your,
It carries 4-3.
okay. Is there any other action on that item tonight, Mr. Stevens?
It's not necessary for item number B, or item B, if you're doing an inconsistency.
Okay. Let's go to item number 7. Yes,
So,
ma'am.
I'm not understanding. So we voted.
That it was inconsistent. So the vote was that it is inconsistent with the request. The request R6 to C4 is
And
inconsistent.
It was 4-3, meaning, right, so shouldn't somebody do a motion for the consistency of the zoning to approve it? I mean, that's why he came here.
A majority of the board found it inconsistent,
Okay,
so there's nothing else to consider
gotcha.
unless you change your vote.
Did you understand?
So I didn't understand. So I apologize because I'm in support of it being consistent because we need to vote based on the fact that they want to do it commercial and not what he's going to put in there. So when I voted, I'm saying no to her motion.
Correct.
Correct.
You voted correctly as you thought you were voting. If you voted yes to that last motion, You are saying you are denying the rezoning because it is inconsistent.
Right, so Kinsey, the mayor, and Barbara.
No, it was me and the mayor and Barbara.
Kinsey.
And Alderman
Wait,
Kinsey.
wait.
Okay.
Four
That was the
members denied the rezoning, and they found it inconsistent.
Then maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I misunderstood the motion. Because I was in favor of the motion. I was in favor of granting the,
No, you're right.
Then you were right. And
Okay.
You voted no.
Okay.
You just lost.
A
You just
double-
lost the vote, essentially. So you voted the right way, you just
Yeah,
lost.
it's
Okay.
confusing because it's a double negative. You're voting no that it's not inconsistent.
okay.
Yeah.
Item number 7.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 7 is another public hearing on the rezoning of 1001 and 1003 South Glenburnie Road. As we did with the last one, board will need to consider adopting a statement of zoning consistency or inconsistency. And if they adopt the zoning consistency, then they will need to rezone the subject properties. A Mr. John Delk has requested to rezone 1.28 acres plus or minus located at 1001, 1003 South Glenburnie Road from R6 Residential District to C3 Commercial District. The Planning and Zoning Board heard this petition at their June 2nd, 2020 meeting and unanimously approved the request. After conducting a public hearing, the board is asked to consider adopting, as I stated, the zoning consistency or inconsistency, and if it's consistent, or if they feel that it's consistent, then you'll need to adopt the new zoning. So there's a memo from Mr. Ruggiero. It's included in your packet. We have a presentation from Nadia, so I'm going to turn it over to her real quick so you can get some details regarding the location and the subject property.
Good evening, everyone. So this is a request to rezone 1001 and 1003 South Glenburnie Road. The applicant is Mr. John Delk. And so this is 2 structures located on one parcel. The existing zoning is R6 Residential District, and he's proposing that it get rezoned to C3 Commercial District. The size of the parcel is 1.2 acres approximately, and the parcel is developed. The present land use is residential and commercial according to the Craven County GIS. And here is a satellite image of the property. As you can see, there is 2 properties on the one parcel. Here is some imagery. So there is a house on the left-hand side and a commercial-looking property on the right-hand side. So the existing zoning R6, it's designed to accommodate single, 2, and multifamily dwellings with 6,000 square feet minimum lots for one dwelling unit and 2,000 square feet required for each additional unit. Mobile homes and mobile home parks are also permitted in this district. So the proposed zoning district is C3 Commercial District, and it's a district that allows offices, personal services, and the retailing of durable and convenience goods. This zoning district is usually found on the city's major radial roads. Here's your general survey of the allowed uses in the C3 zoning district. So it's anywhere from single-family residential to hotels, motels, retail, banks, restaurants, marinas, hospitals. The surrounding zoning is R10 to the north, and to the south it's R6 residential district. To the east there's a mixed R6 and R10 residential districts, and to the west there's a mixed R10 and C3 commercial district. If I go back here, you can see that a little more clearly.
Nadia, what's in that top corner? I can't see it on my map either. Like on the same side that the site is, but all the way up towards the R10. Is that an I or is that a C?
I.
It is I. Okay, that's what I was curious about.
Sorry.
That's okay. I couldn't see it.
So the city provides all utilities to the area. According to the 2010 CAMA Regional Land Use Plan, the area is classified as developed. And also this means it is not compatible with uses such as agriculture and industrial. So the environment in this area It has medium suitability for development, and this is largely due to the fact that it is in the 100-year floodplain, which is Zone AE according to the Flood Risk Information System. And a proposal to the Planning and Zoning Board for this rezoning, they recommended approval for this rezoning, and it was found to be in the public interest and consistent with city land use and transportation plans due to the historic use of the property. Thank you.
Okay, this time we're going to open a public hearing. Anybody like to come forward, make any comments, ask questions, make statements, you're more than welcome to do it at this time.
I got a question. Hello, my name is Ernest Hill. I live at 2801 Oakland Avenue in the area that this lady is talking about. This is my first time here. I did not know this was going on until an hour I was going to be here because people in my neighborhood were wondering what these posts were at the foot of the road about changing rezoning from residential to commercial. And I would like to know, we were not sent anything on what's going on in our area. And so my question to you, what is going to happen to
So we don't actually have that information from the applicant. We just know that he would like to rezone his property from R6 to C3.
now, is that the Hudgens, old Hudgens with the shop? Is that what we're looking at?
It's the residential house on the left, and then there is like a auto garage looking.
What building
Yeah.
that's been there for years and
Yes.
years and years, which has been no commercial. Now, why all of a sudden does it want to become?
I don't have that information.
I apologize, I'm new to this. I just want to make sure our neighborhood is not going to get screwed, excuse my language. Because there's a lot of people that couldn't make it tonight because they're elderly and because of the COVID-19. So who can I talk to or where can I go to get some information on what's going on in our area?
If staff would you please explain the public notice, that it was properly noticed? Could you explain that
Okay.
for public?
So with rezonings, we are required to post the property 10 days out. That was completed, and we also send notifications to property owners within a 100-foot buffer. That was also completed, and we post the agenda, and so those notifications were fulfilled. And also there is an advertisement that gets sent to the Sun Journal, and that was running for 2 consecutive weeks.
Who reads the newspaper anymore? I'm sorry, I don't read the newspaper.
We understand that it's difficult in this time with regards to how everyone accesses their information. We try to go to the extreme lengths of posting our agendas on social media. All of our planning and zoning board meetings are streamed live on our Facebook and other channels, as well as CTV3.
Something that I know nothing about.
And
What happened
we
to direct mailing?
we do direct mail everyone that's within a 100-foot radius as required by state statute.
So my question is, what is going to happen? I mean, what's in it for everybody in the neighborhood if this goes through? What happens?
Why don't you read the list again? It gives uses that seem about.
Yes, so the applicant is not obligated in any way to indicate what his intended use is for the property, similarly to what we just mentioned in the previous rezoning. What the board, in considering this particular rezoning, should look at this particular list of uses, and this is not a holistic list of all the uses. This is just some of the items and kind of a sample general survey of what is consistent with uses in the C3 zoning. So one would have to assume in some way that any of these could potentially be a use for that property upon the rezoning.
All right, my question, where we're at now is basically considered city and county. We pay city and county taxes. If this goes through, then what are we looking at as far as commercial taxes? Then are we going to be charged 3?
That's a separate issue. The county and this, you are charged taxes based on your current property, and no further. There wouldn't be a change in a district. The only time that you have a third tax district is when you have a self-imposed, like the municipal service district. All of the properties in downtown chose to self-impose a tax upon themselves. They all came together. They said, hey, we want these super nice sidewalks and stuff in downtown. So they imposed an extra, what is it now, $13.75, I think, additional tax onto themselves, and they elected to do that. Right now, there would be no change in relation to your current tax rate upon the rezoning of what this particular property would be. So the same value, or the same tax rates would be applicable now as they would be if it were to be rezoned at C3.
Well, let me ask you this then. So what the client is wanting to be rezoned, it's not only his part, but it's the entire area.
No, sir.
It's just his own property.
It's just his own property.
It's just his 2 lots.
Okay, excuse me, like I said, but past 2 days I've been hearing other stories going on in our area, and
Welcome to our world.
Sir, and forgive me, I'm trying to remember if Oakland is the street that property is owned, or if it's the next street down. It's one of those two, I think, where Oakland Avenue is located. Is that correct?
yes, you got Oakland, and then you've got the next one, Ashland.
Okay.
And then that's what I was saying, there's all of a sudden 2 signs just appeared on each road, and that's why
Right, and so
tonight.
that's part of the public notice, and this particular property here, as you see highlighted, is the only property that would be affected by the new zoning.
Just be their property.
Just their property only.
That's why you notice because nothing's happening to your property, and you're not going to hurt you.
Like I said, I appreciate it. Listening to me.
You're welcome.
But, we've had other, all right.
Anybody else that would like, yes, sir, come forward, please.
Good evening. My name is Tony Bryan. I'm the owner of 903 South Glenburnie Road, which is on the corner opposite that. I saw the 2 posts go up, but I was unaware of what was going on. I know Mr. John, we talked after the flood. I've been over there since 2004. His white building has been used as an antique shop, another man's treasure, and he's been using it since I've been over there. I would recommend or ask this board to just let it stay as is, because that's a quiet neighborhood. Don't have many kids in there. We are going to be affected by the new park that's about to go in, that is over there, and I would just recommend to just keep it the same way. It's going to, again, is spot zoning, and just let it stay residential. He's using his business just fine. I'm a business owner myself. As a hobbyist, everything is okay, and if it's not broke, don't try to go and fix it. He's using his business just fine as is. So my recommendation would be just leave it alone. And I hope y'all will see to it just to deny his request for it now.
Yes, sir, thank you. Anybody else in the public like to come forward at this time?
Property next to the gentleman, and I have 3 families that live right next to it, a family with 4 children, a lady with 4 children and stuff. I have the house next door to the church that's on the following corner, the larger building, and they built that church within 10 feet of the property line. No interest in putting any kind of water anywhere, no retention pond or anything like that. And so what I'm afraid of, if you change that to C3, we're going to have water issues, more water issues than what we already have. And the allowance of that church to be put there the way it was, and how his building is, and the runoff is not managed already, and it flows over, I can't foresee any kind of managing that's going to happen with that. And so I'm not in favor of it. I would rather it stay as is too, with the concerns, unless there's going to be some addressing through the city. My father has property in New Bern, and the same things happen there, where other things have changed from, to a R, from a R3, R6 to a C4, what have you, and it's pushed water on him, and I just don't think it's being looked at clearly, especially in this neighborhood with the flooding that we have. Thank you.
Anybody else like to come forward at this time?
Mayor, I make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and second. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same.
Well, Mayor, if there's no other questions.
I have one question.
Okay.
Question for, I guess, staff. The building that looks like a garage that the gentleman said is being used as a commercial use, is that a non-conforming property now?
I believe so.
Okay.
We went under the impression that it was being used commercially.
Okay. Mr. Davis, seems like I remember a rule that if you have two parcels, one's being used for one use, the other is congruent, that there's some sort of issue there. Does that apply first of all here? If not, there's no point in answering that question.
Yes, sir. It's not going to matter. I think what you're thinking of is you can split a tract of land by zone without it being subdivided. Maybe that's what you're thinking.
Right. Okay. And then my last question would be for staff. If this were to be rezoned and they develop this into one of the permissible uses, I assume it would go through site plan review. Stormwater retention would have to be addressed if the property changes, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all, Mayor.
Alderwoman Harris?
I do.
Alderman Davis?
Scott, maybe not. Explain to me again. I'm really unclear about what Alderman Odom was speaking to. That garage has been there for years. So was that lot zoned commercial?
I don't know.
So, or has that been abandoned and that's why the use?
I don't know what the historic zoning was. It may be just like the Oaks Road piece where this area was incorporated into the city.
Okay.
The zoning was laid over, and at that time the judgment was, even though it's a commercial use, they will zone that R6.
But the house is a separate lot that is zoned R6.
It appears to be in common ownership, so it may be a separate subdivided lot, but in common ownership, I believe the owner owns all the property within the blue box.
Okay, and it's currently zoned the
R6,
whole parcel
R6, with a portion of it being a non-conforming commercial use that can continue as long as it doesn't stop for a period of 6 months or more. And the question that Alderman Odom was asking is, the owner could come and ask that the commercial building section be zoned C3, even though it may not be a proper lot.
So my concern right now, and I'm not feeling very kindly to rezone it, is once again this idea of the spot zoning. I mean, really, to all sections, you really have residential there. And I know that garage has been there and it's operated as such. But I'm concerned what we're doing to our residential neighborhoods, people whose only value is their home and can be diminished by commercial going in there, traffic or whatever. So that's my concern, and that we continue to want to take these residential neighborhoods and try to spot zones. So I would probably not be in favor of rezoning this parcel.
Okay. Alderwoman Harris?
Did the zoning board vote this unanimous as a recommendation?
Yes, they did.
Okay, so my concern is that it's already been in use, and I think they're trying to rectify a situation. So I would be in support of correcting it so that it is, he's operating a business, and it's already been operating as a business. I think it's literally just going to be a change in the zoning. And again, if we go back to the last situation, we were privy to know what that person was doing and voted against it. If zoning board and staff went through all the processes and they unanimously recommended for it to be zoned correctly, I think we need to do our due diligence as well and further it, because it's already been that way for so many years. So I don't think that process is going to change. I think he just wants to be zoned properly.
I know that that's in the flood zone area, and if I'm not mistaken, a lot of homes back there suffered flooding during Hurricane Florence, and I'm considering the residents that live back there. If this business, well, I don't know what type of other business he may want to put there or whatever, and I'm concerned about the flooding issues. So that's my stance on that.
Doesn't that have to be addressed during the departmental review?
It's difficult to say without knowing what the intent and what the plan is for the property, other than the fact that it's their desire to rezone at C3. If the property were to stay as it is, then it could be left as it is without any kind of improvements to drainage or any of that other stuff. If they were to go raise everything that's on there and tear it down and then develop the site with one of those permissible uses in the C3, assuming that the board moves forward with the rezoning, then at that point they would have to comply with anything that is required by the new codes, as well as the stormwater requirements, as well as assuming that it meets stormwater thresholds, and Matt could probably detail a little bit further about that. But looking at what I see as far as the size, majority of it looks like it is wooded, with the two uses being along the frontage of the road. If they were to take up that whole site and put some commercial site on commercial entity on it, then I would assume at that point it would probably kick over into the threshold of needing a stormwater permit. But they obviously would still need to comply with any of our new ordinances, codes, everything that we have, new building codes, everything.
Another question. Is there any way to tell, or do we have any experience with something like this devaluing the surrounding neighborhood and diminishing the value of someone's home? That's my concern as well. So if a commercial property goes into that area, what does it do to the value of the homes around it? Do people say, well, I don't want to live in a neighborhood with all that busy traffic or whatever. So my concern, I don't know if we have any statistical evidence or anything like that where it shows that values of homes decline when you do something like this.
We have no indication that there's any, it doesn't affect property values really in any way.
Mr. Davis, isn't that a question that the Planning and Zoning Board has to consider whenever they deliberate as the surrounding property values?
You're thinking of a special use permit. For special use zoning, that's one of the factors to consider, but for general zoning, it's purely legislative.
Okay.
You're just looking for form and rhythm and continuity within a community.
Okay, thank you.
Again, I'm just looking at that particular area, this site, where it's located between Oakland Avenue and Ashland Avenue. Right across the street, you have Mark Marietta, I'm going to say River. I am concerned about the water issues over in that area. That's the main thing, and that's just going to throw more water. I know that will be addressed at the time if this is approved. If they need a permit for whatever use they're going to put there, that would take care of some water issues. But my concern right now is the water issues over in that area. And those residents over there have been affected enough in the past, and I don't want to see something like this happen again.
I agree.
He's included as a residence because he owns this property. So regardless if we change it or not, there's still concern for water issues. All we're doing is changing the zoning so that he can conform, just in case he may have to shut his business down for 6 months because of COVID and then have to reopen, and then he's in a sticky situation where he's not conforming. It's just a change of zoning. I mean, I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm just saying, I mean, we need to be fair across the board.
And I'm concerned, I'm aware of the zoning changes as well.
Alderman Odom.
Mayor, just a comment or question for staff. If this is not rezoned and it stays residential, from a stormwater standpoint, he could theoretically eliminate both houses. He could add houses. So he could add impervious surface to the current zoning as it is now, correct?
Yes, sir.
And if it were to be rezoned, then he would have to go through the planning department to figure out if it would then kick them over to some sort of stormwater management requirements, correct?
Depending on what he
If
does.
he wanted to further develop it residentially, he would, he may be exempt. He'd get 3 lots out of that as a matter of right.
Right.
Because he's on a street front. If he wanted to get greater density, and I'm not sure there's room, but if he wanted to get greater density, he would have to go through the development process, even the residential.
I'm still concerned about the ping ponging. You know, we have residential neighborhoods, we have commercial neighborhoods, we go back and we go forth. I just have some really grave concerns about, you know, his development plans. The C3, now we're back to this, he's requesting C3, not C4. C3 is vape shops, convenience stores, all those other things. We don't know what he's going to do. That's the problem. Right now, his wife, I heard, had an antique store or something like that in there. And that could be a home business for anything. It's like a C, that's more like a C4, really, what she's doing now than a C3. So I'm curious, the higher trafficked kind of a business with C3. And he's not, the applicant's not here, correct? Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for the rezoning of 1001, 1003 South Glenburnie Road, that a statement of zoning inconsistency.
Second.
Motion and second, is there discussion? Seeing none, let's have a roll call, starting with Alderman Odom.
Alderman Odom,
Yes.
Alderman Best,
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey,
Yes.
Mayor Outlaw,
Yes.
Alderman Astor,
Yes.
Alderwoman Harris,
No.
Alderman Bingle.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. Item number 8.
You have to do the second part, don't we?
No.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Item number 8 is to conduct a public hearing on rezoning of 4416 South US 17 Highway. And as we have with the last two, statement of zoning consistency or inconsistency, and if you choose consistency, to rezone it. Corey Thomas has requested to rezone the .46 acre piece of property at 4416 South US 17 Highway from R10 Residential District to C3 Commercial District. Planning and Zoning Board heard this petition at their June 2nd, 2020 meeting and unanimously approved it. After conducting the public hearing, of course, the board will consider the statement, and if approved, the statement of consistency rezoned. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Nadia. She's got a quick presentation for you like she did the last two, kind of give you an idea of and get you in the location of where this property is.
Thank you. So we have the request to rezone 4416 South US 17. The applicant is Mr. Thomas, and the existing zoning is R10 Residential District, and he is proposing his property be rezoned to the C3 Commercial District. The parcel is approximately 0.46 acres, and historically the parcel is undeveloped. Present land use is vacant. There's an image of the parcel right there. As you can see, there's a lot of shrubbery and trees on it. The existing R10 residential district is designed to accommodate single and two-family homes with 10,000 square feet lots required for one-family dwellings, and additional 5,000 square feet required for each additional unit. The proposed zoning is C3 Commercial District, a district for offices, personal services, and the retailing of durable and convenience goods. This district is generally located on city's major radial roads. Again, here's a general survey of the allowed uses in C3, anywhere from single-family residential all the way through to hotels, motels, hospitals. It could be any one of these uses. Surrounding zoning, to the north we have R20 Residential District, and to the south there is R10 Residential District, and to the east and west of the parcel it's both C3 Commercial District. Again, utilities are all provided by the City of New Bern. According to the 2010 CAMA Regional Land Use Plan, the area is classified as developed. With regards to the environment, the subject property has high suitability for development. According to the Regional Land Use Plan, the subject property is in flood zone X on the flood risk information system. That means it is out of the flood zone. The Planning and Zoning Board recommended approval of the rezoning from R10 to C3. Thank you.
Okay, at this time I'm opening a public hearing on this, and anybody like to come forward?
Good afternoon. My name is Constance Simmons. I reside at 4420 Highway 17 South. I'm here before the Board of Aldermen and Women to express our opposition to the rezoning of the property located within 100 feet from my home to 4416 US Highway 17 South from R10 to C3. Let me first say that Rocky Run community matters. I have firsthand knowledge how a business can affect a neighborhood. Several years ago, members of the Board of Aldermen approved a business coming between my house and my neighbor. This would not have occurred in communities like River Bend or Carolina Colors or Trentwood or Taberner or Greenbrier. However, a business was allowed to come into a predominantly black neighborhood between two residents. We oppose the rezoning of the property at 4416 US Highway 17 from residential to commercial based on the following. A, do not want another business in close proximity of residents. B, concern regarding the noise factor because this is a quiet neighborhood consisting of many senior citizens. C, if the property is rezoned to commercial, residents in the community will not have any control on what business will come to our community. Community could see an increase in strangers to the neighborhood and possibly crime. We are concerned about security and safety in having another business so close to residents. The property in question, 4416 US Highway 17 South, is located within 100 feet from my house and beside my cousin. Family members are concerned because a business will bring strangers to our neighborhood and disrupt the quiet and secure community. We will also see an increase in traffic flow. Commercialism is gradually taking over our community. Finally, I would like to reiterate, we strongly oppose the rezoning of property 4416 US Highway 70 from resident to commercial. We would like the Board of Aldermen and Women to know that the Rocky Run community matters. Thank you.
Are there others that would like to come up and make statements, comments? Welcome to do it at this time.
So I don't have really anything prepared because it's such a short notice, but I did want to come out here because I am from and I am a part of the Rocky Run community. And I know it seems like a really small request that whomever is asking, Corey, whomever, it seems like a small parcel of land, less than half an acre. But I think there's such a fear with the recent, regentrification, people just coming in. And I'm sorry, I'm passionate, sorry. This is a community that has been there for hundreds of years, and we've already lost our park. Our community park is now in the city of New Bern Community Park. So little by little, we're losing the essence of a rural community. It's not residential, it's country, it's safe, it's secure. These are people who have worked all their lives, who have retired, and they come here to settle down. It is agriculture, there are farms. There's no reason why we don't want businesses coming in to people that are elderly, and these are their homes, these are their forever homes. So I think that is the fear that's coming in. I think I had another point that I wrote down, and we're definitely not in favor of it if you have not took light of that yet. But just basically, I think everyone is afraid that with the business coming in, it will make the people have to afford like higher taxes. We don't know what type of business is coming, and then once it turns into commercial, that little piece can just have the potential to become a larger area. They'll just keep coming in. People will just keep coming in. So we are absolutely not in favor of it. Thank you.
Good evening, all. My name is Amanda, and just to kind of caveat off Ms. Letitia and this lady over here, we are a community-based, family-oriented, small community. I think the biggest thing for me is I have a child, and some of you can probably relate. And our community is, again, family-oriented. I love the fact that my son can go and play at the park, and it's safe. I don't have to worry about high crime rates. And if we put this commercial property here, I feel like, again, it's going to drive traffic in our community, and we don't necessarily want that traffic driven in our community. And my biggest, strongest point is that I do have a son, and I feel like he is safe, and I think we all want our children to be safe. And the more traffic that is driven into these communities, I feel like there's a fear for me that my son will not be safe. I do have a few other points. I am not in favor of this rezoning. I feel like it's not healthy implementation of the city guidelines. And again, as I strongly say, Rocky Run, and the others are here too, we want our community to be safe. We don't want it to be rezoned. We don't want this commercial property. And that's what I have to say, and that is it. Anybody else?
Good afternoon. My name is Jakira Holmes. I'm going to represent my mother. My mother, she is at 4418. And my cousin, she's like 100 feet. My mom is literally 20 feet from this location. My uncle, my great uncle, that was where his house was. This is like, as you all have stated time and time again, they can change their mind and put whatever they want to at this location, and there is nothing we can do about it if it is rezoned. Who wants to live like that? Would you want to live like that? Not knowing what type of business is going to come less than 20 feet from your home? I live at 201 Rocky Run Road. So 4416 is about 100 feet from my home. I don't want that either. This is a small community. We have all family here. We want to know who's coming into our residence, and little by little, it have little spot commercial places being put within our community, and it's time for that to stop. Like it's not right for us. If you wouldn't want it done to you, and if you have kids, you definitely don't want that. So just with that thought, it's not even 100 feet. My mom's house at 4418 is like 20 feet from this location. So please keep that in mind when y'all, see if you're gonna turn this into commercial credit, to commercial property, or leave it residential. Thank you.
Anybody else want to come up?
Good evening. I live at 4612
So I just ask you all to take everything in consider and leave us as we stand in the zone that we are in now.
Is there anybody else who'd like to come up at this time?
Make a motion to close public hearing?
Second.
Motion and second. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Yes, sir.
Mayor, a few things. First of all, for point of clarification, this is not in Ward 6. This is in the ETJ. Mr. Attorney, we don't have these often. Could you share with the board, the ETJ, the purpose of it, and why this board, as a governing body, makes decisions for things outside of our city limits?
Yes, sir. Mayor, members of the board, under the statute, local governments have the opportunity to go beyond their city limits to enact zoning regulation and minimum housing regulations. The public policy behind that is to start blending the boundaries and the perimeter of your city with the adjoining areas. In this particular case, I recall probably 20 years ago, Riverbend and New Bern decided that this would kind of be the demarcation line, where Riverbend ultimately would grow toward Rocky Run, New Bern would grow to Rocky Run, and that would be where things stop in the future. So the zoning was simply a way to start regulating and planning growth so that it wouldn't happen haphazardly, right? Without any zoning in the county, you can do anything anywhere. So the ETJ was extended down Highway 17 into the Rocky Run area to provide some land use control. As to any individual rezonings, it's, as you guys well know, it's purely a legislative process. Whatever you folks think is best is what's going to happen.
Thank you. Second point, there was a comment made about a park being a New Bern park.
Yes, I made that comment. Like, this community is a community that's well established.
Can you come to the mic, sweetie? You got to come to the mic.
Well, I just want to clarify. I just want to clarify.
It's a city park now.
It's not a city park.
That is a city park in Rocky Run. That is a county park. It's a county park.
Well, it's not the city of New
It's
Bern.
not the city of New Bern Park. That's all I want to clarify.
Yeah, well, it's a county park. That's all.
And then my last point that I wanted to make, if I'm not mistaken, there are a lot of and could there be a lot of non-conforming uses along this corridor? Because I'm looking at this aerial map, and I don't see the business names, but some of these look very obvious to me that they're businesses now that are in the residential zone. Is that possible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, sir. All right. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, the board have other questions?
I'm gonna just make my comment. The other two were already built commercial. This is undeveloped, so I'm gonna be opposed to it. So just in case anybody wanted to know why I vote no.
And I'd like to make the same comment in that I appreciate the residents. I believe in the value of somebody's home, maybe the only value you ever have in your life. It's important to maintain and preserve that value, so my vote will be no as well.
Mayor, I appreciate that comment. However, there's a major difference in my opinion with this one versus the other one. This is on a major 4-lane highway corridor that is ultimately, with the exception of 2 parcels next to it, along the corridor, it's all commercial. So the very site next to this is commercial up until the road is all commercial on the point. So if there's no further questions, I would like to make a motion adopting a statement of zoning consistency with the rezoning of 4416 South US Highway 17.
I have a question. This person.
Let me see if we'll get a second on that and then get your question. Is there a second to that motion? The motion dies for lack of a second.
My question is, have this person come before
planning and zoning and want to be annexed into the city.
This has been through zoning, correct?
Yes, and they were approved it.
I think Alderman Kinsey's raising the question about a possible annexation versus a rezoning. And I'm not aware of any request to
Okay. I'm
annex.
just asking. That's all.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you explain to the public that this was denied? It wasn't, though, we got.
Well, we have to
motion.
We have to take an action on it. We'd have to vote in favor or in favor of it being inconsistent.
You want to make it?
If you want to, you can make it, I'll second it, it doesn't matter. I just don't care.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt a statement of zoning inconsistency for 4416 South US Highway 17.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there a discussion? Seeing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Odom.
Alderman Odom.
No.
Alderman Best.
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey.
Yes.
Mayor Outlaw.
No.
Alderman Astor.
Yes.
Alderwoman Harris.
Yes.
Alderman Bingle.
Yes.
Okay, the motion is denied or is inconsistent. Is the motion? Is the
Mayor, I would like to be able to take an 8-minute recess.
Yeah, I think he's gonna make a motion. Is that your motion?
I'll second.
Motion second, any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. Motion carries. Okay, let's get back to normal here. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, members of the board, it was brought to my attention during the break, Alderman Kinsey raised the issue that he misunderstood the vote on the Oaks Road rezoning. That was the first rezoning where Alderman Best made the motion to adopt the resolution of zoning inconsistency. And you'll recall that we went back through that, making sure that everyone understood the double negative. During the break, Alderman Kinsey expressed his concern that he did not understand that, and that when he was voting yes, he thought he was voting yes in favor to support the rezoning, not in favor of a resolution to find it inconsistent. Is that correct, Alderman Kinsey?
That's correct, sir.
All right, so we are still in a meeting. This is your meeting, and the public hearing was closed. The board can take that back up and revote that issue on the statement of zoning inconsistency to correct the record.
Okay, as a point of etiquette, with any alderman, if that's the case, I would be in favor of that. But I think that we should have a formal motion and approval of the process. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. It certainly wouldn't hurt. There's no good solution to this, and I simply hate that the citizens that cared about this issue are not going to be here to see this vote. I'm comforted by the fact that the public hearing was closed and there's no further opportunity for anyone to say anything else. But I do hate the appearance of this, that we're correcting something after folks have already left partway through the meeting. But it's more important to get the vote right and be accurate than perpetuate a mistake.
Okay, as a further process of this, I'd like for Alderman Kinsey to give us your statement on this, sir.
My statement is that when it was going through, I thought that I was making a decision for the guy to actually have his business.
Mayor Outlaw, the comment I want to make is we did stop during the presentation. We stopped and had Alderman Best explain what she was doing. We had the city attorney explain it was inconsistency. And at that point, Alderman Kinsey could have said, we explained it a couple of times. I'm concerned that we take a break, we talk to others in the audience, and then we change our minds. I am concerned about that. It's like leaving the process. So we can take another vote. You do it. I mean, it's the will of this board, but I want to protest The fact that we debated, we talked about it, the information was out, we stopped for a minute to describe it, and now we come in and we change our minds after we've had a chance to get out in the public and talk about it a little bit, that is not good business.
Well, I didn't talk to no one in the audience. I only spoke to one of the board members based on what I done. And he said, let's talk with the city attorney. And that's the far as I went. I didn't speak to anyone in the audience. I was only speaking among board members.
Well, I still protest.
What? Can we put it on the agenda again?
You know, I've been thinking through how to do this as transparently as possible. It would be very awkward to start the entire process over again in the Planning and Zoning Board. I wouldn't recommend that. If the board feels like they want to hear from the public again and the applicant again and go through the process that we did tonight in the spirit of being totally fair and transparent, there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to go overboard and not try to correct it right now to avoid the appearance that everyone didn't have a fair shake.
Well, I have a problem with this whole process of going through this again. Now, you stood up there and you explained to us. So I don't think that this process need to be, we need to go through this again, nor do we need to take another vote on it. A vote is a vote, and the citizens are not here. And I just think that the vote was done, it was voted on. It was 4-3. It was 4-3. So that, to me, finalized this particular agenda item.
It's the board's pleasure. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I would just like to add that my GPA is a 3.8, and I still had to ask a question because that was the first time since I've sat on this board that we did that. So if we're not comfortable doing it, I would like to make a motion that it be put on the agenda and on the next meeting so that the public can address it and we can make a vote, because if he didn't understand, then he has a right to state that he doesn't understand.
I concur he has a right to voice his concerns at the time we're going through, or even before you make your motion. Even before you take your vote, you should say, well, I'm not understanding something. Can you clear this up for me?
We do have a motion at this time. Is there a second to that motion of Alderwoman Harris?
Is this, Mayor, if I may, this is the motion to put this on the next agenda for a board discussion. The public hearing's already been closed.
Right, for a board discussion so that it's transparent.
I second that motion.
Okay, you have a motion and a second. And Madam Clerk, would you read the motion?
Yes, it's a motion to put the item back on the next agenda. Not to reopen the public hearing, but
For board discussion.
just to vote.
Just for clarity, that's item number 6, which will be the rezoning of 2409 Oaks Road.
Okay, so we have a motion second. Is there further discussion? Yes, sir.
Mayor, I concur with the attorney. This is messy. There's no good way to do this. From a legal standpoint, we passed a motion tonight, and the mayor is going to sign that at the end of this meeting. Does that not become law?
That'll be done, yes.
So how can we then put it on a future agenda to re-debate an item that was a zoning request that failed?
Okay.
Implicit in this motion is that the action will be stayed. That tonight's decision will be stayed and be rediscussed at the next meeting to allow the public to sit and watch your subsequent discussion. But you're right, Alderman Odom, that it serves no purpose to sign off on everything tonight. Implicit in the motion is to table what has happened to correct
If
the
the
mistake.
second, if the motion and the second want to withdraw that, they can, or we can vote on that. Under understanding that situation, I will be signing this tonight.
He just said it would be stayed, so.
Yeah, the implicit in that motion is to maintain the status quo with this mistake, to give a chance for the board to re-vote.
So you won't sign anything?
I'll be in violation of my oath of office to not sign what has been approved tonight.
The city attorney just said you.
Yeah,
you
the
wouldn't.
motion, to put the mayor's mind at ease, the motion would be to, let me think.
Yeah, think real hard on that one, because I'm required to sign whatever this board approves.
Right. To rescind the earlier vote as to the statement of zoning inconsistency and table the discussion on that decision until the next meeting. So it's a motion to rescind that vote, to correct a mistake, and have the discussion and the revote at the next meeting.
I have problems with that.
I do too.
I have problems with that.
I'm all for anything the board wants to do. I would suggest that we go on through these items and give you time to legally process this
Mayor,
thought. And prior to the end of the meeting, we can make a decision on this, or we can do it now.
Mayor, I'm not going to have any better ideas. I'm not going to have any better ideas in 30 minutes or an hour. Every blue moon, these mistakes happen. The good news is, if you're going to have a mistake, it's better to deal with it in the current live meeting than to roll it to another meeting and try to untangle it. Folks do, on occasion, misunderstand and make a voting mistake during a meeting on an earlier agenda item, and it's not improper to go back and correct that if there's a misunderstanding. What you want to avoid is showing up at another meeting and explaining how you made a mistake at a prior meeting.
Let me ask you a legal question. If the motion and second were to pass, would that negate my signing
Well, I would want to amend that motion. To me, it was implicit that the board would not take action on that, but the motion would be amended to rescind the earlier vote made by Barbara Best, Alderman Best, to rescind that vote and reconsider it at the next Alderman meeting.
I'm gonna make it easier. I'm gonna take back that motion, okay? And I'm gonna support what my colleague wants to do. Do you feel that you voted correctly, or did you feel that you voted incorrectly because you didn't understand what it was?
I voted incorrectly, like I said earlier. And like I said, I stayed here and I didn't mingle with anyone.
Right,
Another member.
I know that for a fact. So then can my motion be to consider adopting a statement of consistency for 2409 Oaks Road?
We need to rescind, step one is to rescind the prior motion.
So I make a motion to rescind the prior motion started by Alderman Best.
Yes, ma'am.
of item 6? And that is your motion?
Yes.
And do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on the
Yes,
motion?
sir. Tonight, we had nobody for the motion except for the property owner. Everybody that spoke was against rezoning. We saw that in 3 different pieces of property that came before us tonight where the residents, the people that live in the neighborhood, speak up and speak out. For us to deny that, I think, is wrong. So I'm upset about this. We had the discussion. We are here to work for the citizens. This is Alderman Best's ward. She deals with the citizens in her neighborhood. I know we all have to vote on things, but we made it very evident tonight that we were about protecting the residential rights of these neighborhoods. And I feel that because we had residents and other people speaking to the value of the neighborhood, that's the way the vote went. I'm sorry, Alderman Kinsey, that you didn't understand it, but I remember looking right at you and as they were explaining, and you didn't speak up and say, I changed my vote, because a couple of people were unsure about how to vote. Regardless of the fact, I'm very concerned that we would do something like this when we had a group of neighbors telling us they did not want this in their neighborhood.
Well, that is your opinion.
Yes,
and
yes, sir. You're right, it
to
is.
your opinion as
Yes,
well
sir.
as I.
I understand
so
that.
if I'm willing to speak up and say something to another alderman, and that is something that I have to do. It's not that an accusation has been made towards me that I mingle with other people. I didn't mingle with anyone, but mingling with only my colleagues to say, hey, this is what went wrong. So, that's what I stand to do, and that's what I'm going to do.
I'd like to make a comment, though, because I feel like in this instance, if we want to be transparent, no other person that we voted on tonight had to tell or did say what it was going to be. So you to me, I feel like you voted based on the fact that you knew it was going to be a convenience store. And you technically, morally, should not have voted that way. You should have voted in the fact that they asked for it to be switched over to the proper zoning because the building has already operated in that manner, just like the second one already operated in the manner. However, the third one was just a plot of land. So therefore, are you truly voting for what is going on? Or are you voting against it because you think or know it's possibly going to be a convenience store? That's the main issue that I have, is that you're voting based on it being a convenience store, and you assume that it's going to deteriorate the community. Questions were asked to the chief about other properties in regards to whether there was going to be some type of incidents. We can't sit here and judge one property based on the other. So if we're going to be transparent, let's be transparent.
Well, I voted on this property because of the rezoning, and rezoning only. I had no other incidents in my mind that because it's going to be a convenience store or whatever business going to go there, and that's the way I voted. And I don't think it's fair to the people that was here, the residents that was here tonight, that we made a motion, it was second, we made a vote, and now we're trying to rescind that so we can go back and vote again. I am not in agreement with that.
Okay.
I'd like to call the question.
Yes, okay, question. Let's have a roll call, starting with Alderman Bingham.
Let's have it read back, please.
Okay, she withdrew her earlier motion, and the current motion is to rescind Alderman Best's motion to adopt a statement of zoning inconsistency.
So all we're doing now is rescinding the motion.
Awesome.
Yes. To re-vote again. Am I correct?
Have to be a follow-up motion.
To be a
Roll call, starting with Alderman Bingham.
Alderman Bingle?
No.
Alderwoman Harris?
Yes.
Alderman Astor?
Yes.
Mayor Outlaw?
No.
Alderman Kinsey?
Yes.
Alderman Best?
No.
Alderman Odom?
Yes.
So
that was
motion carries
4 in
4-3.
favor.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Motion is 4-3 to rescind the previous item 6.
So now we're going to go ahead and do I'd like to make a motion to, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the statement of zoning for consistency for 2409 Oaks Road.
Do that to the people. What?
That's my motion.
Second. Motion and a second. Is there discussion?
I just don't think it's in the best interest not to have the public that was here in attendance for that to do this. I just don't think that's fair. So I would like to see it postponed to either the next meeting to allow the public to understand what we have just done.
I completely agree with you on that aspect. I think the legal challenge is we have to make a decision tonight.
Do we have to, since we rescinded it?
You don't. It's been rescinded, so you could table it, that's what I thought was implicit in the very first motion. Now that it's rescinded, it's an open question, and it can be tabled and added to the next meeting's agenda to be voted.
But point of clarification, the public hearing is closed.
Public hearing's
So
over.
the public will not be able to comment if we do
Understood.
that.
But they should have the opportunity to at least be here, speak to us, or speak to the issue.
Oh,
That's a
Is
public
there a
hearing.
motion made?
no, but I'm saying it could be, the next meeting is petition of citizens. So that's fine.
Yeah, folks can speak.
Perfect for me, because I let people speak. So
Right.
my motion, I'm gonna take it back what I just said in regards to adopting a statement of consistency, and I'm gonna make a motion that is put on the first agenda in July, to be able to vote on it.
Do we actually need a motion in that? If you had a direction from a couple of aldermen, they'll probably put it on the agenda.
Yeah, let's just have it papered up, and let's be clear that the motion to table the issue and add it to the next agenda, just so it's real, we have a good paper trail.
Second.
You want a motion on that item?
Yes, sir.
Is that what Alderman Best?
That's what she
Alderman
said.
Harris just made.
Yeah,
Table. Okay.
Alderman, ask for second.
Second, okay.
Okay, just to be clear and let's have a roll call on that, starting with Alderman Odom.
Alderman Odom?
Yes.
Alderman Best.
So this is to add it, so it'll be on our July, whatever, 14th meeting, so that the citizens can have a right to voice their concern during petition of
July 8th,
citizens.
I think is our meeting.
Okay. No.
Alderman Kinsey.
Yes.
14th.
Mayor Outlaw.
I do want to clarify my vote. My vote of yes is that
It goes to the next meeting.
it gives the concerned citizens an opportunity to have a voice, that being that it is petitions of citizens. And other than that, I would protest it, but go ahead. That's yes.
Alderman Astor.
Yes.
Alderwoman Harris.
Yes.
Alderman Bingle.
Yes, because I want the public to be here.
Okay, that motion carries. Anything else concerning that item? Let's go to item number 9.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 9 is a resolution approving an audit contract for fiscal year ending June 30, 2020. So after issuing the request for proposals and receiving responses, the board selected the firm Thompson Price Scott Adams and Company to perform the city's audit for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019. The board is asked to approve a new contract with the firm to also perform the audit in fiscal year 20, ending June 20. The cost for their services will not exceed $34,500, which includes all major programs. This fee does not represent an increase from the amount charged in the 2019 audit. There's a memo that's included in your packet. Happy to answer any questions.
Does the board have questions?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion, we adopt the audit contract for FY ending June 30, 2020.
Second.
Motion second. Any other discussion on that item? Seeing none, let's have roll call starting with Alderman Bingle.
Alderman Bingle.
Yes.
Alderwoman Harris.
Yes.
Alderman Astor.
Yes.
Mayor Outlaw.
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey.
Yes.
Alderman Best.
Yes.
Alderman Odom.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 10.
Okay, Mayor, item number 10 is a resolution approving a lease agreement with the State Employees Credit Union for the ATM located in the parking lot at the corner of Pollock and Craven Streets. As many of y'all know, there's an ATM that's across the street at the Pollock and Craven Street lot, the city's parking lot at 302 Craven Street. This ATM provides needed service for those who live and work in the downtown area. The proposed lease term is for 12 months, beginning July 1, 2020, at a rate of $225 per month. There's a memo that's included in your packet from Mr. Montaigne. We're happy to answer questions.
Okay, I think Alderman Odom had a question.
Mr. Attorney, if we did 10, 11, and 12 and it's unanimous, can we merge those together?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Seeing no questions, I'd like to make a motion that we approve items number 10, 11, and 12.
Second.
Motion and second. Is there discussion? Seeing none, let's have roll call starting with Alderman Odom.
Alderman Odom.
Yes.
Alderman Best.
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey.
Yes.
Mayor Outlaw.
Yes.
Alderman Astor.
Yes.
Alderwoman Harris.
Yes.
Alderman Bingle.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 13.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 13 is a resolution to initiate the upset bid process for 1705 Wilmington Street. Ashley Boyd has submitted an offer of $3,580 to purchase the vacant lot at 1705 Wilmington Street. Tax value on the small .09 acre lot is $7,160. The offer represents 50% of the value. The property was acquired by the city in October of 2008. The bidder is aware of the current zoning and states that she has spoken extensively with development services about the potential uses and restrictions associated with the property. And there's also a desire to potentially place a tiny house on the property, she indicated as well. There's memos included from the city clerk in your packet. We're happy to answer any questions.
Board have questions?
Mayor, if there's no questions, I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution to initiate the upset bid process for 1705 Wilmington Street.
Second.
Second. Motion and second. Is there discussion? Seeing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Bingle.
Alderman Bingle.
Yes.
Alderwoman Harris.
Yes.
Alderman Astor.
Yes.
Mayor Outlaw.
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey.
Yes.
Alderman Best.
Yes.
Alderman Odom.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 14.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 14 is a resolution approving administrative guidelines and policies for the City of New Bern Hazard Mitigation Grant Programs. As you know, the HMGP assists with implementing long-term mitigation measures following a presidential disaster declaration. This program supports cost-effective post-disaster projects and is longest-running mitigation program among FEMA's 3 grant programs. City has been approved funding to acquire and demolish 3 residential structures that were substantially damaged during Hurricane Florence. They are also located within the special flood hazard area. The grant funding is in the amount of $191,472 that will be provided to facilitate this scope of work. It's required that the board approve the administrative guidelines and policies associated with HMGP. Ms. Olin-Salen has provided you with the information in your packet, and she's here to answer any questions you may have.
Does the board have questions?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the resolution approving the administrative guidelines and policies for the City of New Bern Hazard Mitigation Grant Programs.
Second.
Motion and second. Is there discussion? Seeing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Odom.
Alderman Odom.
Yes.
Alderman Best.
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey.
Yes.
Mayor Outlaw.
Yes.
Alderman Astor.
Yes.
Alderwoman Harris.
Yes.
Alderman Odom.
Yes.
Bingle.
Oh,
Sorry.
yes.
Okay, item number 15, motion carried. Item number 15.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 15, in conjunction with the last one you just approved, this is a resolution approving a financial management plan for the City of New Bern Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. The Director of Finance will serve as a grant finance officer for the HMGP. Plan also confirms that funding will be deposited in the city's bank account at First Citizens. Ms. Olin-Salen's included a packet, so it's really just more of an administrative function that's necessary.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution approving the financial management plan for the City of New Bern Hazard Mitigation Grant Program.
Second.
Motion and second. Is there discussion? Seeing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Odom.
Alderman Odom.
Yes.
Alderman Best.
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey.
Yes.
Mayor Outlaw.
Yes.
Alderman Astor.
Yes.
Alderwoman Harris.
Yes.
Alderman Bingle.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 16.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 16 is a budget ordinance amendment for fiscal year 1920 for various funds to ensure all projected expenditures have a sufficient budget to realign revenues to equal appropriations. Amendments must be made to the fiscal year 1920 budget. The electric, water, and sewer funds will be amended to align with the payment in lieu of taxes, also known to us as pilot. And funds will be reallocated within the various divisions to accommodate the transfers. The grants fund will be amended to recognize grants that are rolled from fiscal year 18-19 and to acknowledge a new grant award in the police department by the Department of Justice in the amount of $37,014. Ms. Hogan has included a packet of information on this amendment and happy to answer any questions.
Does the board have questions?
Mayor, if not, I'd like to make a motion we adopt the budget ordinance amendment for FY 1920 for various funds.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Bingle.
Alderman Bingle.
Yes.
Alderwoman Harris.
Yes.
Alderman Astor.
Yes.
Mayor Outlaw.
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey.
Yes.
Alderman Best.
Yes.
Alderman Odom.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 17.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 17 is consideration by the board to amend a grant project ordinance for the Hurricane Florence Fund to establish a Stanley White Recreation Center project within the fund. The grant project ordinance was adopted on October the 9th, 2018 to establish the Hurricane Florence Fund. The proposed amendment will recognize estimated revenues of $15 million that have been obligated by FEMA for damages sustained during the hurricane. The amendment will also create within the fund $8,006,649 for the project of Stanley White Recreation Center as requested by the board, I think at our last meeting. Funds designated for Stanley White Recreation Center are comprised of $7,506,649 from FEMA, $500,000 from insurance proceeds. There's memos included from Ms. Hogan in the packet. Happy to answer any questions.
Does the board have questions?
Yes, I do. Can I get Mark or Mary? You know, you're stating here $15 million. Can you maybe clarify that a little bit? Because I know we had a citizen at one of our meetings was saying that we received $15 million for the Stanley White project.
Yeah. So 17, 18, and 19, all three of those areas, it's basically, this is our last meeting for the fiscal year, so this is basically cleanup. So at the end of the year, we are just aligning all the monies we've received from FEMA so far for Hurricane Florence and making sure that they're properly recorded in the revenue and expenditure lines that they need to be recorded in, along with insurances for some of those projects. And at the same time, while we were cleaning up the FEMA one, we went ahead and made the adjustment for what was requested at the last meeting, put the $8 million into the fund within the fund, and make sure that was specifically appropriated and encumbered just for Stanley White. But the $15 million is what we've received year to date, and we just wanted, it's just the end of the year cleanup for that. That's not additional monies that we've gotten.
Okay, I just wanted you to explain that so that the public would know.
Okay.
Mayor, could you clarify, because this has been a question amongst at least myself, we haven't received $8,006,649 for Stanley White. It's been obligated, correct?
It has been obligated.
So it's
and
not in our account. This is a reimbursable type program.
We have received portions of it, but we have not received the entire amount.
Okay.
Correct.
We've received the $500,000 in insurance proceeds for the flood insurance that we have as well. The program, just like every other FEMA program, is a grant reimbursement program. Essentially, you incur costs associated with the disaster event. You supply them documentation that meets all of their codes and requirements and everything else. They vet it to ensure that you're in compliance, and then they reimburse you based on that amount. So that's typically how.
So we're not moving money. We're creating a project fund with that budgeted amount, but that's been obligated, correct?
But it's encumbered for that.
Right,
It is
correct.
encumbered,
Okay,
yes.
great. Thank you.
Mayor, if there's no other discussion, I'd like to make a motion to adopt an amendment to the grant project ordinance for the Hurricane Florence Fund to establish a Stanley White Recreation Center project within the fund.
Second.
Motion second, is there discussion? Seeing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Odom.
Alderman Odom.
Yes.
Alderman Best.
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey.
Yes.
Mayor Outlaw.
Yes.
Alderman Astor.
Yes.
Alderwoman Harris.
Yes.
Alderman Bingle.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 18.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, item number 18 and 19, these are all kind of end-of-year cleanup items that Mary has submitted. Item number 18 is consideration of the board to adopt an amendment to the capital project ordinance for the Township 7 Sewer Improvements Project. This ordinance was established in December the 10th, 2015 for the Township 7 Sewer Improvements Project Fund. During Hurricanes Matthew and Florence, a sewer lift station located adjacent to the Trent River was flooded. The city applied for and received $500,000 grant money from Golden Leaf Foundation to assist with mitigating sewer overflows and other hazards. The grant funds will be used towards the cost of relocating the sewer lift station out of the floodplain. This amendment acknowledges $500,000 in grant revenues that we've received from the Golden Leaf Foundation. There's a memo that's included in your packet.
Mayor, is it possible for us to do 18, 19, and 20 together?
But 20 is not the same.
Oh, I'm sorry, 18 and 19 together?
As long as they're unanimous.
I would like to make a motion to do 18 and 19 together. Second.
Motion and second, is there discussion?
Just to be clear, your motion is to approve those two items, not necessarily that we're just going to vote on them together, correct? I just want to be crystal clear on this tonight, so we don't have any other mistakes.
Yes,
Okay.
to approve them two items, correct.
Perfect, thank you.
Mr. Davis, we're going to vote on item 18, 19 together as long as it's unanimous.
Yes, sir.
Let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Bingle.
Alderman Bingle.
Yes.
Alderwoman Harris.
Yes.
Alderman Astor.
Yes.
Mayor Outlaw.
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey.
Yes.
Alderman Best.
Yes.
Alderman Odom.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 20.
Thank you. Item number 20 is an ordinance to amend Chapter 66, Streets, Sidewalks, and Other Public Places with respect to sidewalk cafes. Chapter 66 of the Code of Ordinances makes provision for sidewalk cafes. Those cafes were previously limited to restaurants only, but this amendment expands the operation of the sidewalk cafe to include any business that holds an ABC permit. I think the intent of this is in the sidewalk cafes, specifically more so in downtown, that there are some businesses, especially during this COVID-related, when phase whatever happens of the governor, that will open up bars to allow them an opportunity to have a sidewalk cafe permit, similar in which they have in front of the restaurants for the consumption of whatever they purchase at those particular bars. So at this point, I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have, or Scott may have some additional comments.
Okay.
Mayor, again, can we do 20 and 21? One is for the street cafe, one is for a sidewalk cafe. It's the same difference. Is
Okay.
that correct, Mr. Attorney? Okay.
Second. Is it-
Yeah, I made the motion to adopt the ordinance for both the street and the sidewalk cafes.
Items
Amendment.
20 and 21.
Yes, sir.
And you do have a second. Let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Odom.
Alderman Odom,
Yes.
Alderman Best,
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey,
Yes.
Mayor Outlaw,
Yes.
Alderman Astor,
Yes.
Alderwoman Harris,
Yes.
Alderman Bingham.
Yes.
Motion carries. Appointments.
Trying to get you out of
Alderman
here.
Odom.
None tonight, sir, thank you.
Alderman Best.
Yes, I have one. Mr. Ross BB, term on the Board of Adjustment will expire the end of June, and I contacted him, and he said it would be a delight to be reappointed to that board.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Anything else?
That's it for me.
Okay, Alderman Kinsey.
None tonight, sir.
Alderman Astor.
None tonight.
Alderwoman Harris.
None tonight.
Alderman Bingham.
None tonight.
Okay. This time, attorney's report.
Nothing report tonight, Mayor.
City manager's report.
I've got several things, so you'll bear with me, and I do have some staff that will need to come up and talk. First off, I think I can handle this one without, unless y'all have any questions, without Matt having to come up. As you recall, we discussed the racetrack road engineering fees and potentially that being a large project. Matt has got a pretty hard estimate for racetrack road engineering costs that consists of around $29,725 for the engineering and preliminary geotechnical work necessary. If the board wishes to proceed, you can give me the direction. We'll have that on the next agenda as an amendment to add $30,000 into the roadway improvement projects fund. So kind of looking for some direction on that if the board wants to proceed with that.
Could you pull that funding from the budget amount for street resurfacing?
If we have remaining funds, Matt, do we still have some funds remaining in street resurfacing? Answer is yes, if we have.
I think we'd have to take it out of the upcoming budget in
the
July.
upcoming budget.
And we could certainly do that.
Yes, we certainly can do that.
That would be what I would suggest.
Well, you're already a little bit light on the next ensuing year's budget for streets. It's only 400-some-thousand, as I recall.
That's correct,
So-
400,000, that's
Beg
correct.
pardon?
400,000?
Yes. So, it's a little bit light, so if that's what y'all
Anything
want to
from
do.
any other line item that we're gonna end up the year with a little extra to move it around, all about moving Mary? Is there anything? Because if you could do it that way, I think we need the engineering. We can't decide to do something or do nothing unless we have that.
I would not recommend an engineering fee being taken out of what's already only $400,000 for repaving it.
I'm just
I mean,
saying, if
we've been
there's
really good
something out of
about-
another line item that we could move, we
Yes.
could do that.
I mean, 400,000 is just not a lot of money from what we've been.
30, yeah, you
I
mean
see.
street resurfacing, yes.
See, we'd be
I
down
agree.
370 if we did that.
If the board would like to have it on the next agenda, Matt and I can get together, look at the budget to see, he said he could potentially look at some of his professional services line items. Some of those are budgeted items, some of them are if we need them items that typically pop up during the year. It may be we may be able to steal a little bit from one or the other and potentially come up with that 30,000 somehow.
Mark, my only question would be the next board meeting is July, and that's after this budget year ends.
And that is fine because it's going to come out of the next budget year anyway, by the
Okay.
time you pay the architect and engineer.
If it was the pleasure of Alderman Kinsey, I would like to be on the committee with him and take one more alderman to meet with the staff so that prior to going through all that study that we all kind of sit down and don't engineer something that we're not going to plausibly do. So, would that be okay?
Let's do that.
Okay. So please arrange that. And who would your other alderman be?
Who would like to be up there?
Bobby's so good at stuff like that. He's got all that expertise from Airport
Alderman,
Road.
Alderman Best is so nearby.
There you go.
That's
what I have.
And
That's what you
we
get.
could meet out at the water plant or just anywhere, I don't think we need to meet a long time, but I do think we probably, I just don't want staff to get a $29,000 study done and then it's not worth we gave him direction on.
Well, finished? You finished, sir?
I'm gonna decline that because I think that me personally, I think you need someone on that committee that knows about that kind of stuff, and I really don't know a lot about that kind of stuff. So, I think maybe somebody else would be more qualified than me.
Can I understand what the committee's for? Because I thought we voted to get this money so that we can get some stuff done. So now it's a committee to decide whether we're gonna use the funds for an architect or not, or engineer?
Unlike the old airport road, that was pretty understandable that we need to widen the road and do some shoulder work and things like that. The racetrack road is kind of a different situation, so.
It's a little bit more complex, I would say.
Mayor, are you suggesting that this group of board members talk about the scope of work so we don't lay out expectations to have a engineering study done that would be outside of our allotted budget? Is that what you're suggesting?
Something like that.
So, Alderman Odom, if I can just expand on what Mark said earlier, the feasibility study that they're proposing to do is to include 6 different options. They're going to look at widening Old Airport Road to 22 feet. Racetrack Road to 22 feet. Look at it with just resurfacing with no sidewalks. To look at it with sidewalks on one side of the road, and then also look at it with sidewalks on both sides of the road. Then they're also going to look at widening it to 32 feet, which would include 2 11-foot lanes plus bike lanes, and then also look at it with no sidewalks, with sidewalk on one side, and then with sidewalks on 2 sides. So as part of the feasibility study, there's 6 different options they're going to look at and give us what they can and can't do and what they would recommend.
Okay, thank you.
So these, just keep in mind, this is not full-blown engineering plans. This is a feasibility study so that the board
We
can
get an
then
idea of the
have
cost.
estimates, costs, what it's going to feasibly look at, what can feasibly be done, and then have estimated costs on it, and then y'all can decide which projects. Very similar to what we do with the City Hall Annex.
Can we just move forward with that and then get the options back instead of creating a committee?
So that's what he's gonna do then. So we don't really need a committee for that, for him to come back to bring that information back to it, to choose from.
That's the board's decision.
Right.
If the board wants to do a committee or not do a committee, that's entirely up to the board.
Do we need just to give directions for him to go to the next step to get this feasibility plan? Because we already just
That's
voted.
what I'm asking for, is
Yeah.
direction from the board, whether we want to move forward with putting an agenda item on the next agenda to move money so that we can perform this work.
So moved.
I'm good with it.
So,
Yep.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, item number 2 that I have, I think I would call it the chief on this one, Chief Summers. I know several members of the board have met recently. I know our esteemed former Alderman, E.T. Mitchell, is here in the audience tonight. She was very adamant about the need for the police department to have additional training with regards to certain situations involving use of force. So at this point, I'm going to turn this over to Chief to discuss with y'all about Police Simulator real quickly at the request of the board.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. I just want to recall about 2016, the previous board had made some discussion about what item would be beneficial for the police in the future, and we settled on a simulator, and we were instructed to go out and see what it would cost and how we would implement it. So tonight we're just going to brief you on what we have done. I want to mention that Commissioner, former Alderman, Commissioner Mitchell has attended, I guess, well over 10 meetings with us to discuss possibilities. So I'll have her have a few comments if it's okay with the board, and then Captain will give her presentation, and then Commissioner Mitchell.
We'll go ahead and jump ahead. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak on behalf of the police department. This is a project that's been going on, as the chief said, for 4 years, and it's not just about the type of training, it's about the level of training, a higher level of training we're trying to bring to the police department. So, thank you. Real quickly, this project has been going on for the past 4 years in regards to researching and coming up with different ideas to bring scenario-based training to the police department. Starting in 2017, we started reaching out to some of our community partners, such as Craven Community College and other local law enforcement agencies, to come to the table and talk about this simulator. Now, you're wondering what happened over the past 3 years. Meetings and plannings and actually going out into the community to find different locations to actually put the simulator once we were able to obtain it. And so I'm happy to report that this year, June 2020, we found a location which is within the city to actually house the simulator once we actually purchase it. So this next slide is an actual demo of the Virtua 300 simulator. Now the 300 is specifically to the degree of view. So it's 300 degrees where it's 5 screens. And as you're seeing from this depiction, there is 2 officers or trainees that are actually on the platform inside of the simulator. On the outside of the actual platform, you'll see a desk with 2 screens and an actual computer system to the left. That computer system will house several different scenario-based trainings that a trainer will actually sit down and pick and choose based upon the officer's reactions to different scenarios that they're actually watching. Now, when it comes to this program, the best thing about it is the ability to author different scenarios. For example, we can go out into the community, let's say New Bern Mall or Taberna, and actually take photos of those different areas and upload it to this actual system, and with the trainer's help, come up with different scenarios that are real life to the actual officers locally here. Now, some of the training highlights I want to touch base on. It's very important, and it comes down to implicit bias and also de-escalation training. But I want to talk about implicit bias. Most of us know this already, but I just want to make sure it's clear. Implicit bias is the unconscious and often subtle associations that we as humans make amongst ourselves about different people and different stereotypes. And we have to acknowledge that, because once we do, we're going to be able to take this training and make sure that we reaffirm our department's commitment to the criminal justice system, but not only that, to make sure that we're providing the best, fair, and most accurate and procedurally just system of service that we can provide to our citizens. So keep that in mind. But next I want to talk about de-escalation, because that's very important. Now, de-escalation is a very long word, but in essence it just means slowing the actual situation down, ensuring that the officer knows and is trained to know that time is on our side. And with that being the issue, it allows the officer to take the time, talk to the individual, understand where they're coming from, and be able to resolve the situation without force when necessary. Now, there's going to be a slide later on that's actually going to be a video of this Virtua 300 system at play. The particular video is going to show a contact officer and a cover officer. Real quickly, a contact officer is going to be the individual that's going to be speaking with the subject, and the cover officer is going to be just doing that, covering that particular officer, keeping an eye on the situation, the whole situation, and providing information as they would normally do if this was a scenario actually on the street. So if you have any questions after that, please let me know. Thank you very much, Ms. Colleen.
My name's Mitch with the police department. Can I get you to step away from that bridge for me?
It's too late for me.
George 11, also need additional units. I want someone down below this bridge. Give me a blanket, give me a tarp, give me something in case he decides to drop this baby.
It's not too late. I care for you and I want to hear what's going on.
Do you really think you can help me?
Just keep talking to him, keep talking to him.
I can help you.
Okay. Hey, you really seem like you get. Hey, look, I trust you.
Just keep them talking.
I trust you.
Can you step away from the bridge, come to the other side of the truck?
Just keep talking to them. Just keep talking.
I'm gonna get down.
Put her down on the ground.
Judge, let the subject is down on the ground. Let's go ahead and have a rest team move in and take them into custody.
One thing I want to make sure that it's clear. Over the past 4 years, the police department has been continuously going out and working to find different partnerships, whether it's Craven Community College, Craven Sheriff's Department, and other local law enforcement agencies. And we've taken additional steps to go ahead and apply for grant funding for this particular product. We feel so strongly about this system that we are prepared to move forward, and we request respectfully that the board continue this endeavor and provide any assistance you deem necessary. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for me at this time?
Yes, you said 4 years that this type of training has been going on.
Not necessarily the training, sir. We've been doing research and trying to come up with, one, the perfect system. Now that we've found the perfect system, we have to get our partnerships involved, whether it's the community college, other local law enforcement agencies, which took time to have meetings. We've also identified areas into which we were going to house this simulator, and now we're actually planning on putting it at the Rem Street location, if it is allowed in the future. And then now we just have to take the next step, which is paying for the actual item. So no, we haven't been doing this type of training here at the police department. But yes, we've been researching, reaching out to different individuals, identifying the systems that we need. We've identified it, we've found the place to have it at, and now we're ready to move forward.
Very good.
And presently, the closest one will be Nash Community College, is that correct?
Yes, sir. The closest one is going to be housed at Nash Community College, and also the next furthest one out is Jackson Springs, North Carolina.
And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for inviting me, and thank you, Chief Summers, as well. With it, 4 years ago, I asked Chief Summers, when I was sitting on the Board of Aldermen, what is the one thing we could do to improve the effectiveness of the police department and preserve the safety of our citizens. He didn't ask for cars, he didn't ask for guns, he didn't ask for more officers. He said, we need better training. And he said, we need a simulator. And I want to clarify, this is not a video game point and shoot. Okay, if you were standing in this simulator in this room, it would go 300 degrees. It is a virtual reality system. And you can program it for a school, for a mall, for a particular location in New Bern, for a mental health situation, for the guy dropping the baby off, to someone who's barricaded themselves into the house, to domestic violence. One of the things that I think the last few weeks, the violence against African Americans over the decades and centuries have shown, is when people are in a high-stress situation, we either overreact or we freeze. All right, that's not law enforcement, that's not the military, that's human nature. And this is why hospital trauma centers, the airlines, the military, they run people through simulators over and over again. It doesn't de-stress the situation, it teaches you to take a deep breath. How am I going to handle this? I know this works. I'll do this next. And slow down so that you're dealing with it effectively as opposed to a knee-jerk, stress, adrenaline-fueled reaction. And that's why you use virtual reality systems. We just don't have one here. We've talked to our sheriff's office, neighboring sheriff's departments, other municipalities. with it and said, if we had this in eastern North Carolina, would you all use it? And the answer was yes, immediately. We need this. We need to train together. We need to rehearse these situations before they happen because it keeps our citizens safe. Okay, an overreacting law enforcement officer may hurt somebody nearby. He may mishandle a mental health situation. He may not talk a agitated person down correctly and appropriately. This is called practice, and this system gives the opportunity, not just for the New Bern Police Department, but for all the law enforcement agencies in eastern North Carolina to utilize it. And let's face it, if it's all the way across, halfway across the state, you're going to lose an officer for the whole day, and it's also not effective. Because when something goes down in a law enforcement situation, it happens on Monday when you've had a fight with your spouse, when the bills are overdue, and you've got a screeching headache. That's when it happens. Okay, that's when you need to be able to pick up the phone and say, Officer Smith, you're in training in 5 minutes. See you there. Because that's real world, realistic training. We have looked at this for 4 years, it's been the New Bern Police Department, to find the best system that would allow us to do this. And it took a while to find the right site. This thing's loud, okay, because the real world is loud. It's gunshots, it's people hollering, it's cars backfiring, it's bystanders. You have to make it realistic. So it took a while to find the right place, the right type of building, where it could be properly sited in the community. And with everything that has happened, that we all see in the national press that breaks my heart and I know breaks yours, it highlights the need we need to teach our law enforcement officers and provide better training over how to de-escalate situations before they get out of hand so that we keep our citizens safe. And I really applaud New Bern, and then I'm hush here, for taking the lead of looking seriously at implementing this so that we can become the center of more effective, more sensitive, and law enforcement in eastern North Carolina in a way that is dedicated to keeping the citizens of our community throughout the eastern portion of our state more safe. And so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to add one more thing. Most simulators that police officers practice of is basically target shooting. It involves a lot of use of firearms. What makes this system more unique is it incorporates all of our tools. It incorporates our taser, it incorporates our pepper spray, it incorporates our baton. So it does not just rely on first thing you do is shoot somebody. It allows us to actually, what we just talked about, de-escalate. And I think it's very important. And thank you for your time.
Board have questions?
Where are we at on this as far as the system? Am I correct? The system would be owned and operated by Craven Community College. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So they would facilitate payment of the actual system.
That's the ideal situation if Craven is on board. Yes, I obviously can't speak for Craven Community College.
Understood. Well, hopefully we can have Dr. Stats come and speak to
Let's
us.
be clear. We need to go over what, and I think the request is there would be some financial obligation of the city for the capital improvement of the facility. At that point, once the facility is completed, then a lease arrangement would be established, probably for the, with the community college, very similar to the ones that we've been doing, to allow them to house that particular device, virtual device, in the facility that we upfit and operate out of there, utilizing state funding to pay for the programming of the officers to do the training. So, and then Craven County, and correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner, but Craven County's obligation at that point would be towards the utilities and operation, typically with what they would do for any of the other community college programs that y'all fund. I want to make sure that we get that out there as far as how all of this is going to be paid for.
Right, well, I don't want to speak for the County Board of Commissioners because they have not voted on this. But to go back over it, yes, it would, if New Bern will help provide the facility, and upgrade the facility as needed. The community college will, at least in previous discussions, will purchase it, administer it, run it. It would be like taking a course at the community college for law enforcement, except you would go take a simulator role. And then the county's obligation would be to, like as though to any other community college building, utilities, et cetera.
Operation.
Right.
Alderman Adams, you have a question?
Just a couple comments. First of all, I'm glad that the video they showed was not the one that Mr. Stevens participated in with myself when we did a scenario. But we did have the opportunity to go through this very system at a conference, I guess it's what, 3 years ago now? And I just want to reiterate what the chief said. This is not target practice by any stretch of the imagination. I think that's what Mark and I thought it was whenever we, got suited up. One important thing that I wanted to make a comment about, in any professional experience, you get better through practice. Training in a classroom is one thing, but in my world, somebody mistents a gallon of paint, they hammer the lid off of it, and you go buy it for $5 the next day. That's it. It's very different in the police community. We don't have the opportunity to make mistakes, and we have to do the most that we can to prepare our officers for this. I will say one thing, that I'm disappointed that there are no neighboring agencies that have been willing to step up and partner with us on this. And the City of New Bern Police Department is taking the lead on this. Let's be clear about that. We have plenty of agencies that want to use it once we get it here, but we are taking the lead on this. And the last comment I'll say is I would encourage us, and I think we have a grant writer that's employed, not on staff, but we have contract with them. I would encourage them to reach out for grant opportunities in this climate of today. I know that corporations throughout the country and world have been very adamant about stepping up and helping with police and community relationships. To me, I think it's an ideal time for New Bern to show that we're on the cutting edge with this situation, and let's go get some financial partners in this to help us with this process. And the last thing I'll say is the funding that is being requested by the City of New Bern is going into a improvement of a piece of capital, a building that we own. So worst case scenario, this doesn't work out for whatever reason from a relationship standpoint, we are investing in a piece of property that we own that could then be utilized for something else in the future. So, thank you.
Mayor, I would just like to caveat off of what Alderman Odom was saying. I think, and thank you for your comments, Commissioner E.T. Mitchell. I think it's very important, especially during this time in this country, and I think, New Bern, the City of New Bern, moving forward with this and trying to get partnerships and moving forward with this training, I think is very proactive instead of reactive. And so I'm definitely in support of moving forward with upfitting the building and building these relationships. And also, like he said, there's a lot of people speaking out in regards to wanting to help with policing. So if there's anybody local that's interested, we accept all donations, corporations, just throw Target out there. So I think it would be a great idea to partner and make this happen.
I think it's no better place than the Bolt Center, too.
Yeah.
I mean, the work that the community college is already doing there is exemplary, and the addition, they'll soon have the automotive that we're working on now. To have this, that whole campus is becoming alive.
Can it be incorporated into the program that's already at the college as well, too, for the police academy?
Yes, that would all be incorporated.
I think that would be
Yeah.
amazing.
I just think it's amazing, and I fully support this, and we can figure out, I guess, how to get the dollars later, right? Or we'll get them.
I just want to know, what's the cost of this piece of equipment?
The cost,
Very curious.
it's a lease program, and that will be basically maintained and paid for by the community college. I think the upfront cost is about 70.
Well, there's two ways of doing it, and I want to go back to on the community partners. when we had informal discussions and said, hey, neighboring police department, by the way, neighboring sheriff's department, if we do this, will your board support it? Pretty much we heard yes to some degree. Now, did it go back with a formal proposal? Did they go back with a formal vote? No, because we couldn't say, on May 13th, 2021, we're kicking it off. It took a while to get all the pieces worked out, and Florence, very frankly, didn't help. There are two ways we can do it. One is we purchase the equipment, and if you purchase the simulator, it's about $400,000. That's why I said it's a virtual reality system. It's not a video game. It can also be leased, and I think
70 for the first year, I was told, and 40 to 45 a year.
Right, with it, and that's way over my pay grade, and Chief Summers was working on that one.
That's correct. If we lease it to be roughly $45,000 a year, might be a little extra on the startup, but I think it's no more than 50, maybe 60. But the major expense is getting a location for it to go, and we've had Mr. Montaigne, who has done a quote on what it would cost to upfit the building, and I think that came into around about $250 by the time we did everything that needs to be done to get the building suitable, and that's where we're at now, trying to get over that hurdle. We have used our grant writer, the city grant writer, and we have been looking for grants. We have already applied for one. We hopefully, if we find one, we intend to. But it takes time for people to approve grants. It takes time to find them.
But just to be clear, we're moving forward with upkeeping or upfitting. We're not purchasing it. That's going to be with the community college.
Right. The biggest problem has been a place to put it.
Okay.
It had, the right size facility with the right size parking that frankly had a little bit of buffer, and the building could be soundproofed. Because if you turn it down to where it doesn't bug you, well, then it doesn't accomplish what it's supposed to do. So finding the Volt Center building, we've all looked at a lot of buildings all over town, and I think that's the best one. So I think, and I'm sorry, I'll put on my citizen hat here. The commitment of the city to upfit the building to house the simulator so that this community could be the leader in more effective law enforcement would be a wonderful commitment that speaks to how important the safety of our citizens are.
I agree.
Yeah.
Several of the aldermen and myself, we met with the chief this past week and watched this presentation and talked about the things we're talking about. And I came away convinced of all the things that this city deals with in a given year, be it potholes or fire protection or roads that need to be built or infrastructure that needs to be in place. I think the number one priority for right now in this city that we show the leadership that's needed is this simulator. It's the number one thing that we need to express to the public that we are going to move forward, and we're going to provide the opportunity on campus for not only the city of New Bern, but other communities that, when, you're thinking about, well, we really need to go do the simulation, but let's, don't want to go drive to Rocky Mount this week. Let's put it off. And then you put it off, just like we have put off since Commissioner Mitchell mentioned this back about 4 or 5 years ago. And, it's the concern I have about, I certainly want to reach out and try to find the grant funding, every source there is. I think this is obviously the trend, this is the time to go after it. But I just want to move forward if the board would on this, because I think part of what drug it out was we were looking for partners, and the partners never really surfaced. There was some little overtures of that, but I think the location is the right location. I think it fits in with a lot of what we're doing in New Bern, and I certainly would like for the board, if they would do it, to give the staff direction. And I Mr. Montaigne, I know you got 100 things on your plate, but I would put this as the number one thing to prioritize as far as getting this building ready, and I think we should realistically look at a sequential scheduling of when this thing's going to be operable. And Chief, maybe you could speak to that. Let's say that if the city of New Bern had that building ready in 60 days, let's say, optimistically, what's the purchase time? What's the training time? What's the procurement time of the software? What's the schedule of who's going to use it? And you know, I think the grant money will pretty much work itself out.
Unfortunately, the best case scenario, if we control the schedule, we can kind of set a timeline. In other words, if we retrofit the building and we start the lease program maybe for the first year, $45,000, I can probably give you a better timeline. The other option, obviously, is to retrofit the building, and then we're on the college timeline as to when they'll make the funds available and when they'll purchase. So I can't really speak as to that.
Maybe we can get Dr. Stats in here, because I believe that.
I think
I think they're ready to go.
Maybe for some guidance, and I know, Mayor, if y'all want to you're talking about funding it. If you wish to fund it, then the board can take that action. I think you've kind of heard some preliminary numbers as far as the upfit costs, less going out and finding as much grant money as we can find. But ultimately, I think regardless, this thing is going to have to be papered up, which means that if we have the authorization of the board to move forward with papering this thing up with both the county and the community college, much like we did with the Volt Center, have the agreements are in place, then we know the county's on the board, we know the community college is on board. And at that point, we move forward, and then if we have it before us as an agreement, then at that point, maybe the board can decide to put the funds towards it, or we can put the funds towards it now. But regardless, we're going to have this papered up.
Well, the county normally does not get involved with which programs the community college is putting in there. If they decide to put in an automotive training facility, that doesn't get...
You've got to fund it, though. So if they decide to not put that in their programming because you don't fund the amount within y'all's budget to give them money, then at that point they're not going to provide the service. So there's no use in us upfitting.
Incorrect.
Okay.
Incorrect. Okay, and now I'm quoting Dr. Statch from 9 months ago.
That's what he told us. But I'll defer to your knowledge.
Well, you may have a more updated number. Okay, but the other side of it is if the city chooses to lease the simulator, then it could still fall under the community college operation. I guess what I'm trying to say, and this is what I would urge this vote, or this board, is this has gone back and forth over 4 years. Okay, it's a complicated process. What's been missing is somebody saying, we're going to do this, and we're starting with step A. And regardless of anything that happens, the facility to put this in has got to be found and updated. Okay. If that's not going to be done, there's really no point in proceeding further. The purchase option is one issue, and the funds from the community college may have disappeared. You know, I'm not an expert on the community college, and I certainly don't want to speak for Dr. Stats. But if the lease option is another one, and the chief has told me it is, that may be another way to proceed with it.
So who pays the lease?
You lease.
The lease is with the community college. The program is with the community college. My understanding, much like, and I may be completely wrong, but my understanding is completely, this would be exactly like we did with the Volt Center. The Volt Center, we actually got the grant money, administered the grant, did the upfit of the building. The community college operates the programming, and all the utilities and all of the funding necessary for them to operate that facility comes from the county through their programming. So that's what I'm kind of relating this to, is if the county's not on board and the community college is not on board, then there's no reason to go spend $250,000 to upfit a building that there's not going to be people on board. So that's the reason why I think papering it up. So that's what that was my point.
Okay, can we look at it like this? You already have in mind how much everything is going to cost, okay? we have the building, we're getting ready to upfit that, we have the numbers together. Is it that you can present that to these folks and say, we are ready to go now, okay? What can we receive from you in order to move forward, since we have all this information that we've been putting together? It's like the commissioner just said, if we're gonna move, we need to move now. So if we can go ahead and present what we have and say, okay, we're ready to go.
I think we're certainly, I think that makes a very good point. I think it's very important for the board to understand that there is a commitment of the board that the facility is going to be used for this purpose, number one, and y'all are committed to that. And number two, if you're committed to the upfront cost of upfitting that facility, less any kind of grant programs that we can get. So potentially your exposure is $250,000 for us to upfit the building. If you're okay with moving forward with that, I am perfectly okay with getting me and the chief to go over and stand in front of the county commissioners and stand in front, or go with Mr. Stats to his meeting and say,
I
we need part of
feel
this.
that I can speak from what we have heard tonight. I just feel that the board is ready to do that, you know? They have spent 4 years.
I'd love to see a commitment first.
I've been talking to Dr. Stats when I knew of this. I got him on the phone because I'd been hearing this and I wanted to go to the horse's mouth. And he let me know that the college already has the state funding, equipment. It's in their equipment fund budget. They've already got the money to lease the simulator.
Right.
It's already up. They have the money. So that would not, they're ready to go. Their deal is they need a building to lease and a way to come in. So that's really what we would need to commit to at this point to move forward, is to secure the building and rehab it, whatever, and then the city manager and the other cohorts can paper it up.
Right.
And paper that part up.
And I would recommend, and I had asked Brenda to do this earlier today, is to set up as immediate as possible meeting between Mayor Outlaw, Alderman Odom, City Manager, me, Dr. Stats, and Chief Summers, okay? Because the community college is key on this one with it. I think that's if the board is committed to upfitting the facility, then I think that is the next step. Because everything came to a standstill when we couldn't find some place to put those. But I think the next step is to sit down with community college.
So how soon can you do that?
I have a problem, Commissioner Mitchell. I understand that, you know, the college is in agreement and we as a board have made a decision, but I would feel a little bit more comfortable knowing how the county feels about this and what steps they're going to take next.
We haven't had anything to present to the county because we kept coming to the roadblock, but we could figure out a way to come up with a simulator, but we couldn't find a place to put it.
Okay. So now that that's all of that has been found. So with this board, if the county says, no, we're not going to be involved, then it's going to be strictly left up to the city of New Bern and Craven Community College.
Well, let me get kind of rough around the edges on this. If you look at everything that's going on in America, where's it happening? It's happening in urban areas. It's not happening out in a lot of rural areas. I'm not saying there's not issues happening, but a lot of this is happening in high-density urban areas. All the more reason why, you know, there's nothing more sacred than the life of a first responder or a citizen. And so, you know, if we waited another 4 years, I'm afraid, you know, if we waited as long as we waited, I hate to get my crystal ball out and predict what might happen, that we're not attuned to the mental health issues and all the other de-escalation issues, and right down to when you get this, it's going to make you think of other things like the relationship we have, that we got to do something size 8-5 when somebody's got a mental issue. I mean, it's just so many other doors the simulator is going to open that need to be open. It's, you know, we probably need New Bern a 5 to 10 tier approach to where we need to go with community policing and all that. And this is the first part of it and the biggest part of it.
Well, Mayor, I understand everything you just said, and I concur with it, because this country and our state is in a turmoil right now. And this simulator is well needed. But I just wanted to know that, I want the citizens to know that if the county don't go on board with this, then this is going to be funded by the city and Credit Community College. Now, that's all I wanted to know, so the citizens can know. Because we do need, I do understand, we need this piece of equipment.
Well, no, and I understand what you're asking. You're saying, what does the county feel about this?
Right.
And I want to be very clear. I am not speaking for the county. I guess I'm speaking as a former alderman who sort of helped get this kicked off and put a whole bunch of work on the police department. With it, up until this degree of commitment and interest from the city of New Bern, which I very, very much appreciate, the only thing we could have gone to the county with was, we want to put a simulator somewhere and manage it somehow, and it'll cost some amount, and will you support it? And obviously that doesn't fly with any board of elected officials. So this is the second critical step of putting together a plan that then we can go to the county and say we'd like to move forward with this. I will tell you that the Sheriff's Department absolutely supports it. I have not talked to a law enforcement person who didn't. One thing that I want to be really clear about here, though, is this is not just about protecting our first responders. When people overreact, innocent bystanders get hurt. It happens over and over again, and some of it I think is because of racial bias, and some of it is just because people panic and they don't have adequate training with it. So we're at phase 2, step 1, and we got a lot of phases ahead. But just knowing that the city is interested in supporting this, I think, is really, really critical. And thank you for seeing the need for it.
Yeah, with all due respect, what do we have to do to move forward? Because regardless, to me, I feel, if certain people are on board, that's fine. Regardless, I feel as a city, we don't always have to follow sister cities and stuff like that. We can be innovative and do what we need to do. So what's the next step to move forward in the conversation? Because I feel like we're going around in circles of who's doing what. Then what do we need to do to move forward? Because I think the majority of the board, or maybe the whole board, supports upfitting and working. The community college already said they got the money. Anybody that wants to come on afterwards will be a surplus, I guess, if we're putting out funding. But what's the next step? I'm speaking.
I mean, that's a very difficult question for me to answer. I guess we have community colleges, according to Ms. Bingle and her comments, that they're on board. Mm-hmm. We have the facility now, so essentially now it becomes a point of do we partner on the capital costs with the county? Are they just going to handle the soft costs? I didn't fully understand whether they do have costs or they don't have costs in that. If they do have costs, then they're going to continue to incur those every year that this thing is operational. If they don't have costs, then I would think that they would want to commit to helping us out with capital. They may want to help us out with capital regardless, or the city can hoe the road on their own and do $250,000, upfit the building, and then we're in it and we're done.
I mean, I think we should go ahead and upfit, because regardless, it's our property. You know what I'm saying? And if the county wants to come in, then, I don't know where the city attorney is. At that time, can't we negotiate something at that time for them to fund us back? I just don't want to be on a standstill waiting for them to make a decision on whether they want to do it when we got the two essential people that make a difference, which would be the community college and us. So, at this point, could we just go ahead and do what we need to do and get it going? Because I think it's really important.
It's entirely the board's decision.
Board?
Let me ask Commissioner Mitchell, what time frame are you looking at if you would go back to the board and talk to the board about this? And at this point, where is the board at right now?
The board knows absolutely nothing about it, because we've never had a plan to present to them. And very frankly, it's a city building. Okay, it's not a county building.
I can't see them voting this to give us money towards it.
I think if the city never takes a leadership role in this, I think other communities and all come to the plate at a later date, and they will pay the price to be a partner with us.
I agree with the mayor.
I would agree with that, and I think the other, at that stage, for the other law enforcement agencies in eastern North Carolina, because I see this as being an eastern North Carolina asset that New Bern leads as the cutting edge.
Raleigh, Jacksonville. I mean, I believe if we just go ahead and pull the Band-Aid off, you know, it's going to definitely be beneficial, not just to our police officers, but our citizens in the Tri-City area.
Is there anybody on the board in disagreement over the direction of looking towards an expenditure on renovating that building, as much soundproofing and other things as can be done at the same time, getting the joint meeting, the city manager and staff, Dr. Stats and others from the community college, and working out the detail?
Let's do it then.
Is anybody against that? What further direction do you need on this, Mr. Stevens?
Everybody's in agreement, we'll move forward.
I'm ready to meet in the morning, just let me know. As soon as you get that meeting together.
Can you schedule it Monday through Thursday between 11 and
No,
1?
we'll do it on.
Okay.
We're working on it for next Monday or Tuesday, possibly.
Okay.
Perfect.
Good. Anything else, Chief or Commissioner? Very good presentation.
Thank you.
Chief, I did have one question. What will be your first simulation you think you need to work on? What will be the number one thing that you...
That's a tough question, but I would think it would center around any scenario that consists of de-escalation, be it a domestic situation, be it a person who is aggressive toward, physically aggressive, obviously not any type of weapon, or toward an officer, and anything that might conjure up somebody's bias, something like that would be something good. And again, the scenarios work based on the officer's response. If the officer responds aggressively, then the scenario is going to go aggressively. If the officer responds calmly, then it'll go another route. So on that bridge incident, if the officer had been real aggressive, the guy could have thrown the baby over the bridge. So that's how great the scenario system is.
Okay. That's good. What else you got, sir?
All right, working through this, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask Charlie Bouchard to come up. I know there's been some emails going around. I just want to update the board and keep the board updated on our unpaid utility balance as far as the governor's order 124 and 142. So just real quick, he can update the board on that.
I think I have some positive news tonight. Just stepping back and revisiting Executive Order 124, suspended utility disconnects for non-payments for residential accounts from March 15th through May 31st. On May 30th, the governor extended that order through July 29th, and that's where we're at right now. Total financial exposure through this process as of this morning was $415,000. Good news is that we ran numbers late this afternoon after doing a series of robocalls, and we collected $97,000 this afternoon with people coming in and making payments. That was particularly commercial, non-residential accounts. So the bottom line is, well, I shouldn't say that. From last week, we've decreased our exposure by $124,000. So our efforts with robocalls, public messaging, educating the customer on what's really going on with this program seems to be effective. Overall, our largest exposure week was May 18th, and we're down $244,000 since May 18th. Total exposure with respect to percent of customers, about 2% of our total customers have a payment plan with us now. About 2.5% of our total customers have no payment plans and have a past due balance. So overall, about 4.5% of our customers are utilizing EO 124 and 142 in some format.
Charlie, of the 2% that don't have a payment plan, is that residential or commercial or both?
That's total.
Okay.
Total customers past due is 643. Total residential past due are 596, and non-residential's past due this morning was 78, but this afternoon we had a flood of customers come in and we're down to 47. So I think that's really positive news.
From a bookkeeping procedure, I know that when we were having a lot of legal fees associated with the buyout and everything, you maintain a contingency fund, and of course I don't know how that would work from an accounting standpoint, but what is your contingency this year, like 2019-20? Have you had anything you had to use as a contingency fund for?
We haven't been operating out of any contingency funds or reserves.
I'm just saying internally within your fund balance of the enterprise, the electric enterprise, a contingency, can be legal or whatever. Can it be used for allowances for doubtful accounts, that type of thing? I guess that's more of a Mary question. And so, in other words, what I'm getting at the end of the year, if the allowance for doubtful accounts is obviously atypically high, then could the contingency funds offset that to where we're not looking at any type of rate increase or anything like that because of this scenario?
Correct. We have cushions that we can do, that we can manage that with. We're not in bad shape at all. We're actually not much different than we were last year as far as write-offs currently. Now, the unknown is if the second wave. So next year could be a different one. We'll have a meeting in October. We'll include all these numbers when we get to October. But as far as up to June 30th, we're going to be fine. We're not going to need to use contingency. We're not going to be in the hole at this point. We're all working real hard against getting done. So we're taking care of it.
Great.
So where we're at with payment plans, we once spoke about customers or residential customers, putting them on a payment plan proactively. Well, since the governor extended his order at the last minute, I think that has changed our intent there, and we've slowed that down. I think we really need to wait until we get closer to when the sun sets on this order, and then put those customers on a payment plan at that time. If we do it now, we're going to be readjusting their balances every single month until we have some sort of resolution. So that's why some of our customers are on a payment plan and some of it are not at this point in time. Right now we have one non-residential account that is pre-COVID, and we'll be contacting that account tomorrow and possibly disconnecting if we don't receive past due balances. The rest of them we're going to work on proactively and put those commercial non-residential accounts on a payment plan this week, so that way they have through their June bill to help manage the situation. That's kind of where we're at right now. It changes daily.
Sounds great, Charlie. Thank you for the information.
You're welcome.
How are you doing there? Tough time.
All right, two more things. Last major one. I'm going to ask Foster to come up. I know the board had brought up at a previous discussion regarding the purchase of a mobile stage. He has the documents here, which are the quotes, and he will kind of detail a little bit about that, and then also the way in which we have found in which we're going to fund it through financing. So I'll let him talk while I pass it back.
So in the package you're going to see, we've looked all over the United States, and actually North America. There are some companies in Canada. The best price we found for a 24 by 20 mobile stage is $132,065. And the stage that we're proposing to acquire, you'll see some photos. There are a series of 3 photos of this type of stage. And one of the things that we've also done in this proposal is to add additional panels to where we could extend the stage to make it be 32 feet wide if need be. And this stage comes with all the bells and whistles, and you'll see the price ranges. I think the highest price from a competing company was $150,000 for actually less than the stage that we're proposing to acquire. And so funds are in place for this, and we're ready to
Well,
proceed.
part of your proceeds from the old stage, you got some reimbursement on that.
Yes,
didn't
so let me kind of detail that a little bit more. The proceeds that we have received from insurance, which we designated the loss of the stage as insurance funds received. We didn't claim that on FEMA because it's better for us to just, at that point, to claim it through insurance proceeds, because we have the ability to apply those insurance proceeds however we wish at that time. So we did that, so those funds are basically all held in the Hurricane Florence Fund. So the purchase of this would be purchased out of that fund utilizing the insurance proceeds, so there would not be a necessary budget amendment. What we're looking for is to present this to you tonight to get the board's approval, because typically items of this size and scale as far as cost would come in the form of a budget amendment, or we would have them through the budget process throughout the year. So what we're looking for is direction to move forward with the purchase of this, utilizing what you have here as hard quotes, just like we would anything else, to purchase with progressive $132,065 for the stage as presented to you tonight. We'll move forward with that, and that will come out of the Hurricane Fund utilizing insurance proceeds.
So moved.
We double so moved in a second.
Yeah, motion second. How about, go back over to 32-foot deal.
So the stage itself is 24 by 20. All of these stages were. To make a stage bigger, you could purchase panels, and they're basically 4 by 6 panels. And so in this price, we're looking to make the stage at least 32 foot wide if need be. And of course, these panels, you can adjust them to make the stage deeper if you want to, or wider. You can make it as wide as you want to with this. You're still only going to have a 24 by 20 covered section, but you can make it as wide or as long as you want.
And so, which of these three are you recommending? Which one?
Progressive.
And does that price of $132,065 include those panels?
Yes, it does.
To go 32 feet?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's
Does anybody else have any questions? This is under the city manager's report. Do we give direction, or do we don't make motions under the?
No, I think it's already in the fund.
It's in the fund, so it's direction. Is that correct, Mary? And when you bring it back to another meeting to formalize it, it's the money's there, right?
No, money's
The money's already there. Under normal circumstances, if we had a damaged location, we would have repaired it during the hurricane. It wouldn't have come before the board. We would have repaired it, then we would have got reimbursed from FEMA.
Right.
This is different, I felt, because, I mean, this is it's a large number, and we want to make sure that the board is in agreement that we're purchasing a mobile state, and it's for $132,000, and that's what we're moving forward with our
This is
insurance.
going to be an incredible
How long
asset for
take
the
this?
city. Incredible.
I do have a motion to
A
second.
matter of weeks.
Yes,
Matter of
ma'am.
weeks? Oh,
Yes, ma'am.
Matter of weeks. So moved. Let's go.
Also, I haven't had a chance to look through this, and that's including speakers, lights, everything.
It doesn't include speakers or the lights. Normally, when we have a concert, the sound company provides that type of thing. So really, there's no sense in us getting into that type of business.
Sounds great. Thank you for the information.
You did make a motion second.
We did.
And
Oh, we did a motion? I
We
thought
did.
just.
Well,
Yeah.
so
Show of hands,
let's have
basically.
let's have a roll call on this. I have a motion second, starting with Alderman Odom.
Alderman Odom,
Sure.
Alderman Best,
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey,
Yes.
Mayor Outlaw,
Sure.
Alderman Astor,
Sure.
Alderwoman Harris,
Yes.
Alderman Beagle.
Sure.
Y'all are.
Raise your hand.
Hey, motion carries. What else do you have, sir?
Only thing else I want to say is I wore my tie for Independence Day, which is July the 4th, and we are still having fireworks, so I hope and invite everyone else to come out, enjoy the fireworks, but also practice for social distancing. I think the Parks and Recreation Department has advertised it and also have provided some recommendations to stay in or near your car to view the fireworks so that we can help prevent additional spread of the COVID-19 virus, but we want everyone to enjoy Independence Day and the fireworks we have here at the city.
Okay, I think the public and the board would like an update on the boardwalk under the bridge. How's that?
They started back today. They started back today. It kind of got, we got put on hold real quickly by Diener because there were some things that were found. As you know, there's probably been 300 years of stuff pushed and raked into the river there on the frontage, what used to be the bulkhead. So they unearthed those things while driving the piles. They kind of put the brakes on it so they could document it from a cultural and historical archiving standpoint. But then they started back that work today, so it is our hopes they'll be done in a week or two.
Matter of weeks, yes.
Anything?
With that being said, I received a call from Miss Jones, who told me she is, the mayor of Union Point Park. and she just wanted to thank the city for the footbridge and the work that she was doing, because she's there every day. She walks it every day. And so, Miss Jones, thank you for calling me, and I appreciate the phone call. And that's what I have to say.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Alderman Bingham, do business.
Yes, sir.
Alderwoman Harris.
Yes, I just want to say thank you to everybody that came out and supported the Juneteenth celebration. We saw Chief and Alderman Best there. It was a great event. I hope that it grows bigger next year. And then also, I just want to remind everybody that our first Standing Way Advisory meeting is June 30th at 6 p.m. at City Hall. All are welcome, CDC guidelines, and happy 4th of July. That's it.
Okay.
Nothing, sir.
Alderman Kinsey.
No, sir.
Alderman Best.
I did, but I think I'm gonna refrain from speaking.
Alderman Mayor.
Nothing tonight, sir.
Okay, does anybody else have anything for the good of the cause here in Newport Alderman?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion second. All in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. Motion carries.